And now, ladies and gentlemen, for those famous words, I present to you our Grand Marshal, the President of the United States. Mr. President.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
The 40 cars have fired to life and now get set for racing here at Daytona. And here is the die-hard starting lineup. The pole sitter is Sterling Marlin in the Maxwell House Coffee Ford at 189.366, car number 22. On the outside of row number 1, there he is, the king, Richard Petty. First time on the front row since 1984. Richard Petty outside row number 1.
And starting on the inside of row number 2, Davey Allison, the current Winston Cup point leader. Of course, he's the man everybody's looking to beat here today in the Haviland Ford number 28. And starting on the outside of the second row is Mark Martin. In the Valvoline Ford, Mark is also one of those considered to be a threat.
And here's a young man who needs to turn it around, Ricky Rudd, the Tide Chevrolet. And insiders say he is running extremely well in that Chevrolet. Could be a winner today. Ernie Irvin on the outside. He needs to come back from Michigan. Remember, just a couple of laps into the race, he crashed. The Kodiak Chevrolet also running well.
The Quaker State Ford starts in 7th position. The drivers from Chemung, New York. That's Brett Bodine. And starting in 8th position, the Citgo Ford. Morgan Shepherd from Conowar, North Carolina, car number 21.
And starting in the 5th row will be Michael Waltrip, who had a good run here in the Daytona 500. Hopes to pick up where he left off just before he blew an engine. On the outside of the 5th row is Dale Jarrett in the Joe Gibbs Interstate Battery Chevrolet.
The next driver, a guy who told me last night this car is a rocket ship, Kenny Schrader, the Kodiak Chevrolet. And alongside him, Richard Petty's son, Kyle Petty, the mellow yellow Pontiac.
Starting in 13th position is Darrell Waltrip in the Western Auto Chevrolet, and alongside the Sunoco Ford, driven by Terry Labonte from Corpus Christi, Texas. Wally Dallenbach starts 15th in the Keystone Ford, and outside will be Harry Gant in the Skoal Bandit Oldsmobile, car number 33. And now, as you look at the rest of the starting lineup, the field begins to move away from pit road onto the 2.5-mile tri-oval here at Daytona as we get set for the Pepsi 400.
Saw Bill Elliott back in the 20th position or 19th position. Remember, he was on the outside pole for the Daytona 500.
A lot of good drivers starting in the middle to rear of the field this afternoon, so we'll be watching them move up. Dale Earnhardt, as you saw a few minutes ago, starting in 22nd position. And those are the 40 cars and drivers, and there is a live shot inside the pace car that is carrying Bill France and President George Bush.
Bob, I've been impressed. Every time he has gotten in that car and sat down, he has fastened his seatbelt.
Setting a good example for the rest of the nation. And there is Richard Petty, who is lined up just behind the pace cars in row number 1.
He's waving to the car behind him. The fellow's waving and saying, good luck, Richard. He's acknowledging that signal from the guy behind him.
So a couple of warm-up laps, and you know, we've spent a lot of time here in the last 35 minutes or so building the excitement, but the fact is that there is a race at hand. Davey Allison, of course, is the Winston Cup points leader and is looking for an addition to his points lead.
Well, he already has 4 victories this year in the Winston Cup Series, plus he won the Winston. He is the top money winner, has reached $1 million earlier than any driver has in the history of NASCAR Winston Cup racing, and he's looking to add on to that today. And I think most of those drivers figure that Davey Allison might be the man that they have to beat here today.
You're going to be looking for some of the drivers that we mentioned starting in the mid to back of the field, moving up quickly?
Oh, I think so. I think the draft is going to equalize everything. Qualifying, look at George Bush as he goes down the straightaway. 110 miles an hour, probably 115 miles an hour, scared to death.
He seems to be enjoying it, though, waving to the fans as he goes by. John Kernan is down on pit road.
Guys, we've been talking about Richard Petty, but one guy on Thursday kind of stole the show. That's Sterling Marlin, who knocked Richard off of the pole late in qualifying by about 1/10 of a second. Now, when Sterling got out of that race car after doing that, the 15,000 fans or so in attendance all booed Sterling. It's not that they don't like him. It's because they wanted to see the king, Richard Petty, start this race from the pole. But actually, if you look at statistics, then Sterling may have done a favor for Richard. He doubled his chances of winning because the pole sitter has only won this race twice, while the second place car has won it 4 times. Now let's go to Dr. Jerry Punch.
And John, for many of these guys today, it is their one and only chance to possibly complete a race here at Daytona. Remember back in February, 17 cars did not make it to halfway. On lap 92, that massive crash off turn 2. So for a number of contenders like Sterling Marlin, like Bill Elliott, like Ernie Irvan, none of those guys got a chance to chase the guy whose pits are behind me, Davey Allison, who won that 500. This is their one and only shot. So it's not just their Pepsi 400, it's also their Daytona 500. Bob?
Hey, Doc, where'd you change? In the phone booth or something?
Boy, he did make a quick transition, didn't he? And look at the king. He has pulled alongside the pace car, carrying the president, and they're saluting each other. President Bush with the thumbs up to King Richard Petty as he slides back now into his starting position outside the front row alongside Sterling Marlin.
What do you think, Nick? Can he lead that first lap?
I don't know. Yeah, I think that there's an excellent chance that he can, and surely nobody wouldn't take that honor away from him.
John Kernan mentioned now the fans booed Sterling Marlin when he knocked King Richard off the pole. And I have a feeling that Sterling may, if at all possible, shall we say, allow Richard to lead the first lap here this afternoon.
I don't know. That Davey Allison might dive down on the inside on the back straightaway and pass both of them, or at least try to.
Well, there's no question that nobody is going to give Richard Petty the victory here today. But let's face it, he has put in a lot of testing time here at Daytona. This is his final hurrah, and he is prepared for it.
Oh, I think he's the best prepared that he's been in a long, long time to win.
And the most competitive. I'm sorry, Bob.
That's all right. Field now making another warm-up lap as the car carrying the president has pulled off of the racetrack. He has a busy day ahead of him. Is flying in just a few minutes to North Carolina. He'll participate in a parade, and then will later be flying, I believe, to Europe later tonight. So the field is ready for some racing, and so are we here at Daytona International Speedway as we're set to bring you live flag-to-flag coverage of the Pepsi 400. And our Speed World coverage is being brought to you by Pontiac and your local Pontiac dealer. We build excitement. By Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Smooth Bush Beer and easy drinking Bush Light. We'll be back with the start of this 160-lap event here at Daytona, the World Center of Racing, right after this. Well, the exciting Gillette Halfway Challenge is coming up in today's race. The driver leading at the halfway point will win $10,000, and a fan at home will have a chance to win a beautiful Chevrolet Lumina Z34. If you have entered the contest for this race and your entry is selected and you are called at home, you must name the driver who won the Gillette Halfway Challenge $10,000 award to win the Chevrolet Lumina. If you want to enter the contest at next week's Miller Genuine Draft 500 on July 19th at Pocono, write to Gillette Halfway Challenge, Post Office Box 2246, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33731-2246. You must be 18 years of age or older to enter, and we must receive your entry by the 18th of July to be eligible for next week's Gillette Halfway Challenge. Field now coming down through the tri-oval, and that's the roof cam that will be on top of Richard Petty's car.
And one more lap.
And we should be getting the green flag. Here's a look at the point standings as Davey Allison, 4-time winner this year, remains on top. 67 points behind is Bill Elliott. Then comes Alan Kulwicki, Harry Gant, and Dale Earnhardt, who has had some bad luck the last couple of races, has slid to 5th. Terry Labonte, Mark Martin, Morgan Shepherd, Jeff Bodine, and Ricky Rudd complete the top 10 in the quest for the Cup standings.
Alan Kulwicki, another driver that we didn't talk about, to starting back 26th, third in the Winston Cup point settings currently.
We have an in-car camera being carried by Mark Martin, who lines up in 4th position right behind Richard Petty outside of row number 2. You can see the yellow lights are flashing on the racetrack, but the lights above the pace car are out, indicating they will get green next time around. Mark Martin will be carrying the telemetry. You can watch the RPMs, the gear he is in, and the speed that he is achieving. All of this in the telemetry carried by Mark Martin.
And he will start the race in 2nd gear. As he comes off turn 4, he will downshift to 2nd gear, and that's where he'll start the race.
Phillips 66 in-car camera being carried by Jimmy Hensley.
That's Stanley Smith right directly in front of Jimmy Hensley. A Meritron battery car.
And he also will be carrying the telemetry.
You see he's already in second gear.
Getting ready for the start, and Bobby Hamilton in the Country Time car will also be carrying one of our in-car cameras. The field now making its way into the banking in turn number 3. We're just a few moments away from the start of the Pepsi 400, a 4th of July tradition. Richard Petty outside row number 1 alongside Sterling Marlin, and he is getting set to look for green.
Ned, I bet you Richard Petty is as nervous right now as he was his first race in Daytona.
He probably is, but I started to say a moment ago when he crawled in that SDP Pontiac that might have been the most relaxed he'd been all day, but he better get relaxed right now.
Watch with us the start and how things go on the first lap of the Pepsi 400. Richard Petty has the lead going into turn 1.
He's got it so far.
And the crowd is going to burst with enthusiasm and response and applause that this place has not seen in years if he has that lead coming down the tri-oval on lap number 1.
He moves over so to hopefully to stay in front of these guys, but Sterling Marlin pulls up on the outside. We just switched the starting order.
They go 2 by 2 through the banking in turns 3 and 4. Petty to the inside, Sterling Marlin to the outside. Here they come down off the banking to about to complete lap number 1. Who is going to have the lead? They're side by side as they come down. Richard Petty is going to lead it.
That's magic, Ned.
Yes, sir. That was great. Absolutely great.
Familiar wet towel sticking out of the mouth of Richard Petty. Looking in the rearview mirrors to see everybody behind.
Yeah, say, okay, you cats ride side by side back there, and I'll continue to lead. But look on the inside, 3 cars got hooked up. There's Mark Martin, Davey Allison, and Ricky Rudd. Martin trying to move into second place. Okay, guys, the ceremony's over now. We got to go racing. I don't think they let Richard Petty lead down there, but they say, okay, he's had his glory. We're going to go up there and see what we can do with him now.
Mark Martin and Sterling Marlin are side by side behind Richard Petty, and then Davey Allison is alongside Ernie Urban. They're 2 by 2 behind Richard Petty.
Inside of Mark Martin's car, we see how many RPMs he turns down the back straightaway, 6,700 coming off the corner. Now, Davey Allison's going to try it on the outside. Davey's not having a lot of luck getting in the corner, Ned, on the inside. You notice how much he backed up going in the corner?
Yeah, he wanted to get his car on the high side. He told me yesterday that the back end of the car was loose going into the corner, pushed a little bit coming off. It'll probably run better on the high side of the racetrack with that kind of condition. Of course, I'm sure they worked on it after that, so I don't know where it stands now.
Continues to lead. He's looking back on Sterling Marlin, who is just within a car length or so. There you can see the first time that he has led this year, and Dale Earnhardt is experiencing problems. He's going back.
He sure is. That's Phil Barkdahl right behind Dick Trickle. Phil Barkdahl behind him.
Meanwhile, up at the front of the pack, it is still Richard Petty leading as they go down in single file formation.
And Mark Martin got caught down on the inside, and everybody went by him. He does get back in line now in front of Dale Jarrett, but boy, he lost about 6 positions.
Richard saying this is the way it used to be in Daytona. We can see how far back that Martin has fallen.
And the telemetry indicating his gear, RPM, and speed.
197 miles per hour as you enter turn 1. Now he slows down to 190 miles per hour in the corner. That's how much the banking drags the speed off the car.
Jerry Punch is with Richard Childress, Dale Earnhardt's car owner.
And RC, he is dropping back here. The car's slowing. What's the problem?
Well, right now we just got a dead plug on it, or dead cylinder. He said it just started missing right around there under the getting ready to take the green flag. We didn't have enough time to bring him in and work on it.
So you have to wait and maybe hope for an early yellow.
We just wait until we get a chance to fix it.
Richard Childress here in the Earnhardt pits, and he's helping us up there, guys, on 7 cylinders. He can't keep up, not with a plate on the engine.
Dale
And here goes Sterling Marlin trying to take the lead from Richard.
Earnhardt has fallen back to 29th position as we do have a new leader. Sterling Marlin has gone to the front, Petty at second, and here comes Ernie Irvan looking to take over second spot from Richard. Davey Allison runs in fourth, and Ricky Rudd is fifth.
Andy Belmont is in the pits. Good on his car. He started back near the rear of the pack as we look out Richard's windshield or is that from the top of his car? To Sterling Marlin.
Coming down to complete lap number 6. Richard Petty led the first 5, but Sterling Marlin's taken the Maxwell House 4 to the front of the field in the Pepsi 400, live from Daytona International Speedway. Back at Daytona International Speedway and the Pepsi 400, Ernie Irvan is in the lead with Ricky Rudd running second, and then Sterling Marlin, and coming in for a pit stop is Dale Earnhardt. The car slowed on the racetrack, and it's just barely able to make it to its pit area. Jerry?
And the news is not good at all for the 5-time Winston Cup champion, Bob. I just talked to the Danny Lawrence and the folks here in the Goodwrench crew. As a crowd, you can hear the crowd behind me responding and waving as they see that black Goodwrench Chevrolet. It's been so dominant for so many years in NASCAR racing, rolling to a halt. The engine is not running, and Earnhardt said the car just got tighter and tighter. They project that the engine may have gone away. They're going to check it right now as they raise the hood here. Meanwhile, we're under green flag conditions. Earnhardt's chance to pick up another Pepsi 400 win has gone away. The field comes rolling by and heads back to turn 1.
And certainly he's also concerned about Winston Cup points that will take him to another championship coming into this event. 5th in the point standings, and he is suffering from engine problems here in the early going. John Kernan is at the other end of pit road.
Well, Bob, after leading several laps, Richard Petty has dropped back just a little bit. He's radioed his crew chief, Robbie Loomis, and has told him that the car has gotten really loose right now, which is kind of strange because at the start of the race, he told Robbie that the car had a push in it. So Richard's just going to ride it out. They're going to try and correct the handling problem during the first round of pit stops.
Richard Petty dropping back to 11th position after leading the first 5 laps. And joining us today is Airship Shamu, SeaWorld's traveling Goodwill ambassador. Shamu represents SeaWorld Marine Life Parks in Florida, California, Ohio, and Texas. And there's a shot from Airship Shamu looking down on the field as it makes its way through turns number 1 and 2 here at Daytona and onto the backstretch. They're being led by Ernie Irvan.
Those folks that told me that Ricky Rudd's car, Tide Chevrolet, was running well, didn't lie to me, did they?
No, they didn't. Yeah, that car is running very, very good.
Got a couple of Chevrolets and a Ford running up front right now. Sterling Marlin, the 3rd car there. Then a little bit of racetrack back to 4th place, and that is Davey Allison. 3-car breakaway at the moment. And Punch has an update on Dale Earnhardt.
And Bob, the news is not good for the Earnhardt fans and the people who want him to repeat and maybe get that 6th championship. The word I just told a minute ago, they think it is a burned piston. If that's the case, he is through for the day, and he will lose many, many valuable Winston Cup points.
The defending Winston Cup champion behind the wall in the early going here at Daytona.
Ernie Irvan running a little bit higher on the racetrack than Rudd. Ricky right on the bottom, and here comes Dale Jarrett. The Interstate Battery car, Ned, he's on the move.
Yeah, he's found a high groove in the turns, Benny, that's working for him. He's dropped back to about 10th, and now he's moved it up to 6th.
This is the shot from Mark Martin. 190 miles an hour in turn number 3.
Down to 180, 188 miles per hour was the lowest.
And as those tires get heated up and worn a little bit, that speed will probably drop a little bit in the turns.
There's 4th, 5th, and 6th. That is Davey Allison, Morgan Shepherd, and Dale Jarrett. And here is a Napa field summary, the first of the race. This is how the field was running not 5 laps ago, not 3 laps ago, but the last time around Daytona International Speedway. Watch for your particular favorite. Now, of course, positions are being changed constantly. Dale Jarrett just passed the 21 car and moved into 5th position.
He definitely got that high groove working, doesn't he, Ned?
Especially in turns 1 and 2. That's where it's really working for him. He tries it up here in 3 and 4, but it doesn't work as well up there as it does in 1 and 2.
It's strange how things work from one side of the racetrack to the other side of the racetrack.
Well, there was a 3-car breakaway, but now everybody has fallen back into single file, and that has allowed Davey Allison and Jarrett and Morgan Shepherd to catch the first 3, Marlin Rudd and Ernie Irvan. Jerry Punch is with Dale Earnhardt.
Well, Dale's sitting patiently in the car. Dale, this has to be a heartbreaker for you early on at Daytona.
Well, I don't know what happened. We run so good in practice yesterday afternoon. The engine ran fine. And started off there, had a little bit of a mess in it, and we thought, might have been plug wire or something, and then the engine started tightening up. So undoubtedly, it had a bearing going out of it, and we didn't catch it. We checked everything over this morning, and, it's one of them deals. It's tough.
And that epitomizes the tough day for the defending Winston Cup champion.
Well, I'll tell you, when you fall out early and you're back there at 38th, 39th, or maybe even 40th in this case, then as far as the points are concerned, it's awfully hard to make that up.
Yeah, it's a very destructive thing that has happened to Dale Earnhardt in terms of points. Ernie Irvan beginning to separate himself a little bit from second place Ricky Rudd as they race down the backstretch. And there is Richard Petty, who led the first 5 laps, but is now right behind Michael Waltrip, running 12th.
Yeah, he got the car real loose as he was leading the race. He got high coming off turn 4. The car got loose, so Richard wisely, he's backed up. And as John Kernan said from the pits, they will make adjustments when he makes that pit stop and try to get the car dialed in. I don't think we've heard the last of Richard Petty. Not today, anyway.
I think that's the problem they can fix pretty easily if they get a chance in the pits.
Darrell Waltrip is running right behind Richard Petty. And there is Jeff Bodine also. These first 6 cars now hanging right together, and both Allison and Jarrett are up high.
Yeah, Davey saw what Jarrett was doing there, and he picked up on it and started going high in the turn.
Now here is Morgan Shepherd in the Citgo Ford moving alongside Dale Jarrett, and Kenny Schrader pulls alongside Mark Martin into turn 3. Now Ken Schrader did undergo surgery a couple of weeks ago and thinks he can run the entire 400 miles here this afternoon. If he cannot, Buddy Baker is standing by, and I talked to Buddy yesterday, and boy, he was just saying that was the greatest car that he's ever driven, and he didn't want to wish Schrader any bad luck, but he sure would like to drive it.
Well, I'm sure it would be a thrill to get in that thing, because as Denny said, Schrader said it was a rocket.
Well, who better to update the surgery on Ken Schrader than Dr. Jerry Punch?
Thank you, Bob. You mentioned he was in surgery a couple of weeks ago. Actually, it was 12 days ago. The Monday following Michigan, he was lying on an operating room table. Dr. Jerry Petty, a noted neurosurgeon who's operated on many Winston Cup drivers, doing neck surgery, trying to decompress a pinched nerve and a disc that he had dislocated in his neck. Now, Schrader wasn't sure he'd be able to come to Daytona. He wanted to start the car, but he's had such a tremendous recovery. He said, I wanted to get in a race car 4 days after the operation, but they wouldn't let me. So he was going to try to run the whole race today. The big concern for Schrader will be the heat. Surgery, not being able to do anything for a week and a half, takes so much out of you. You may be a little bit too weak to make it all afternoon. It's about 112, 414 degrees, our latest count here off the asphalt on pit road.
Hot and humid afternoon at Daytona International Speedway. It's not even afternoon yet, but close, as the Pepsi 400 is underway on the 4th of July, 1992. Here are the top 10, and we'll be back with more live coverage after this. Once again, the shot from our airship Shamu high overhead Daytona International Speedway on Pepsi 400 Day, July 4th. We welcome you to our live coverage, and at the moment it is Ernie Irvan leading Ricky Rudd, Sterling Marlin, and Davey Allison, and 20 of 160 laps are complete. Ernie Irvan took over the lead a few laps ago. Richard Petty led the first 5 laps.
I tell you, Ernie's car looks so good, Ned. These other guys are struggling. They're running high. They're running low. His car just seems to be sitting there.
Yeah, it does. It seems to work wherever he wants to put it. And, yeah, you're right. The ones behind him are searching around. But I tell you, here's a fellow, Bobby Hamilton, last year's Rookie of the Year winner. Started back in the 25th position and has moved up, Bob.
14th right now for Bobby Hamilton in that number 68 car, right ahead of Jeff Bodine.
Running a Chevrolet. They've been running Oldsmobiles for several years, and decided to change for a Chevrolet. It wasn't good for him.
There's Kyle Petty right ahead of Bobby Hamilton.
The reason for that, they've been announced that next year Oldsmobile is not going to be active in Winston Cup racing. So
they get the jump on next year and start with the Chevy right now. Jeff Bodine also up there trying that high line out of turn 4 onto the tri-oval. Richard Petty right behind Jeff.
And the Motorcraft crew, earlier today, made a pit stop, simulated a pit stop for President Bush down in the garage area.
Yeah, the president arrived here about 9:30 and then came over to the garage area. He was treated to a demonstration of pit stop, also how the cars are inspected technically for a race like this. And then, of course, he made his way to the podium, and you heard his remarks that he made to the thousands of race fans gathered here on July 4th.
Bob, here's a couple of Chevrolets fixing to hook up and pull away. They've already almost lost Sterling Marlin in the draft back there.
So we have
Urban and Ricky Rudd.
Yeah, two Chevrolets of Rudd and Urban. Here is Bobby Hamilton and Jeff Bodine, both moving around. Kyle Petty and now Kyle and Richard are running together on the racetrack.
While they're dialing back the Keystone car down on the inside, there comes Jimmy Hensley. Or is that Rusty Wallace?
That's Rusty Wallace. It's all right. Have your eyes checked. We'll be all right.
Yeah. So the black car, I thought that was Hensley, but it's Rusty Wallace, the Miller Jr. black car.
Inside Richard Petty's STP Pontiac.
And we can see how high that Richard is running the STP Pontiac, just how high up the racetrack he's moved, trying to get a good grip and cure some of that looseness problem that he told us crew chief he had.
Wally Dallenbach looking good here in the Keystone Beer Ford.
That did the Kyle's cars that was not handling well either. He had jumped up there in the top 10 at the beginning of the race, and then he began to go back a little bit, so evidently the Mellow Yellow Pontiac is not handling to his liking at the moment.
Putting a lap on Jimmy Means as they come down through the tri-oval. And there's Bill Elliott closing in on Rusty Wallace.
And Elliott back in the 18th position.
Well, he's picked up 2. He started 20th.
Yeah, he's the defending champion of this race. And King Richard has passed his son Kyle, so Richard moves up another position to 14th.
You see, that's what Richard has done. His car wasn't working. He's now moved up the racetrack. The cars have slowed down enough that that high groove is working well enough he can start passing some cars.
And speaking of slowing down, you probably noticed that the qualification speed for the pole sitter was down from earlier this year, 189.3. Now, normally speeds are lower for the Pepsi 400 because of weather and other traffic conditions. However, they have upped the spoiler to 45 degrees, and that's accounting for a lot of the reduction in speed. Here's a group of cars led by Michael Waltrip, and there's Darrell Waltrip, his brother, right behind, along with Bobby Hamilton and Jeff Bodine.
Those 3 cars all from Nashville, Tennessee, or around Nashville. Owensboro, Kentucky. Darrell Waltrip lives in Nashville, so does Bobby Hamilton lives over in Nashville.
Well, he's going to try on the high side to pass Darrell, and they'll see if they can hang on to him. Remember a couple of years ago at Talladega, Bobby Hamilton was so strong up there, and he and Darrell drafted together, and he almost pulled an upset there. And Darrell getting caught now down on the inside. Jeff Bodine goes by.
And Darrell is hoping just to get out of here today with a clean race car. He has had problems the last couple of years here at Daytona, including that tremendous tumble last year.
He told me if I could pull it on the truck, if I could load it by itself under its own power, I feel like it's been a success.
Kyle Petty is caught down low as Jeff Bodine pulls around.
That's Bill Elliott going by on the outside.
Elliott.
Check your eyes, too. We'll get a discount, a group discount.
That's right.
Ooh, there's not a whole lot of room up there, Bill. Yeah, and he figured that out, too, because he knew Richard had to come out when he came off of that turn, so he decided better not stick the nose of that Budweiser Ford up there right yet.
Now Richard looking to the inside of Darrell Waltrip at the end of the backstretch as we present another Napa Field summary. We do these, try to at least every 10 minutes to keep you informed of where your driver is running at the moment.
Wow, look at Kyle Petty. Richard must be backing off, getting in the corner, and Kyle just made about 3 car lengths on him through that corner.
And that's Wally Dallenbach Jr. down to the inside, being passed by Richard and Bill. Dallenbach with a good qualifying effort here this weekend, starting in 15th position in that Keystone car.
I think Dallenbach was the passer, but he became the passee pretty soon.
And here once again is Elliott working the high side of the racetrack, pulling alongside Richard down the backstretch.
Yeah, he had room up there that time. Richard gave him plenty of room, so he picks up the draft of Kyle. That is, Bill picks up the draft of Kyle. And here's Dallenbach trying to go on the inside of Richard Petty.
If you're just joining us, what you saw was correct. Dale Earnhardt, 40th, is out of the race already. He's behind the wall with engine problems. Michael Waltrip, Bobby Hamilton race down through the tri-oval. And here now is Dale Jarrett picking up position on Davey Allison, and that's for 4th spot. Dale Jarrett moves to 4th.
He's been working Davey for about 15 laps. Davey's car seems to be getting a little bit loose now. They've pulled away from Ken Schrader and Morgan Shepard back there, and Dale can see that happening. You see how they've scattered out a little bit. Schrader now beginning to move back in on Davey Allison. Jarrett moves in on Sterling Marlin to see if he can get him to pull him back up to Ernie Irvin and Ricky Rudd, who are about to get away.
That was Andy Belmont on the inside that the cars went by down the back straightaway.
Look at Dale way up there at the last white stripe. Now falls in behind Sterling, but will challenge him again here in the tri-oval. He moves alongside Sterling, and Jarrett is in 3rd position.
He's got that momentum going for him when he gets up on top of the racetrack. He doesn't lose that momentum and comes down that hill.
And here's Jerry Punch.
It cannot be a surprise to anyone that Dale Jarrett is running so well at Daytona. Remember back in February, he was running 2nd in a 125-mile qualifying race when the car spun suddenly in turn 4 and it destroyed that race car. Now, in the race, he started back in 35th spot and it climbed all the way to 7th prior to that massive 17-car pileup off turn 2. So Dale Jarrett had high hopes to run well here in February, and those hopes are proving through here today. We'll be back.
Daytona International Speedway and live coverage of the Pepsi 400, and we have a new leader. Ricky Rudd has taken the Tide Chevrolet to the top spot. Ernie Irvin is running in 2nd, and Dale Jarrett is 3rd, and this is how Ricky got the lead from Ernie.
He's on the bottom of the racetrack coming off the 2nd corner. Ernie a little bit high. Rudd just gets through the corner so well, blows by him down the back straightaway.
And here's John Kernan.
Guys, what you just saw on that pass was a couple of Chevrolet teammates working together. Ernie was told to let Ricky get by. What they want to find out is if they can pick up the pace. As we've been talking, some of the teams have been having a handling problem. They wanted to change and see if with Ricky out front, if they might run faster laps and pull away.
Some interesting team strategy, at least manufacturer strategy going on, as now Dale Jarrett, who is in 3rd position, comes in, and here's Ernie Irvin taking the lead back from Ricky, and Jarrett looking for 2nd.
Yeah, they must have figured, Ernie figured, well, he's not going fast enough to suit me. I'm going to get back up front. Don't care what the watches say. I want to go faster.
And they could have told him from the pits that, hey, you guys are a little bit slower with Rudd in front. Let's get that Kodak Chevrolet back in front.
Once again, today's race includes a Gillette Halfway Challenge contest, $10,000 to the driver leading at the halfway lap, and a lucky fan at home could win a new Chevrolet Lumina Z34. If you enter the contest for this race and your entry is selected and you're called at home, you must name the driver who won the Gillette Halfway Challenge to win the Chevrolet. You want to enter the contest for the Miller Genuine Draft 500, July 19th. Write to Gillette Halfway Challenge, Post Office Box 2246, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33731-2246. You have to be 18 years of age or older, and we must receive your entry by Saturday, July 18th to be eligible for the next Gillette Halfway Challenge at Pocono International Raceway.
Here's Rudd. Slow. Is he slowing that or no? He just got caught on the inside.
Yeah, he got down on the inside, and Dale got a run on him. Jerry Punch.
A little more on that factory strategy from those Chevrolets up front. The reason Ricky Rudd allowed Irvin to go back around him is Rudd is so loose leading the draft. The air goes over his spoiler to the car behind him, so he just couldn't handle the car. So it's better with Irvin to lead the draft, or even Dale Jarrett up there, because Rudd right now has a very loose race car.
And he is definitely dropping back just a little bit, not losing position, but he's dropped back from Dale Jarrett. And here are Jeff Bodine and Bill Elliott, a couple of Fords hooked up.
And Bob, they are flying. They have moved up on top of the racetrack, to the very, very top of the racetrack, hooked up nose to tail. They're now at the 10th place and 11th spot and just flying. We'll see how low they run here, but down in turns 1 and 2, they're going right to the top of the racetrack. They found a groove that's working perfectly for them.
Davey Allison sitting there in 5th place as we see Dale Jarrett right on the back bumper of Ernie Irvin. Jarrett staying a little low coming off of 2 over there. His car seems to get a good bite coming off there. But I started talking about Davey Allison. We understand he has a push in his car. You can see him coming into the picture there now, running in the 5th position. That I mentioned earlier that he said yesterday it was a little loose going into the turn and pushing coming off. Boy, Denny, you don't want a car pushing coming off these turns here when it gets slick.
No, if you've got to back off the gas to make the car turn, that just kills the momentum of the car.
Davey Allison, the current Winston Cup points leader, trying to make it a clean sweep. That is, lead the points from the beginning race until the finale at Atlanta. He has made it to the halfway point. He'll be the points leader at the end of this race. We got a long second half of the season to go.
As someone said, the half point of the season is at 80 laps today. We've had 14 events so far. Today is the 15th, and it'll be 14 after this.
The halfway point of today's race, it will mark the halfway point of the 92 NASCAR Winston Cup season. Ernie Irvan, the leader, Dale Jarrett second, and Coach Gibbs ought to be abandoning his going to races here before long to concentrate on the Redskin season.
Yeah, I think this will be the last race that he'll get to. He said he might be able to slip away in a couple of weeks at Pocono because their training camp is not too far. Carlisle, Pennsylvania, not too far from Pocono.
Didn't Coach Gibbs come down this morning with the president?
Yep, sure did. On Air Force One.
Whoa.
Man, can you imagine riding in that thing?
Woo. I wouldn't know how to act. Definitely would. 3 Chevrolets. And Chevrolet Luminas, 1, 2, 3.
Now, a moment ago, when Ernie Irvan and Ricky Rudd switched positions back there, Sterling Marlin caught up to him. But now that they've sort of gotten in the line, those 3 Chevrolets up there, they pulled away from Sterling. You see, there he barely comes into the picture on the right side of the screen.
Ernie Irvan leading the Pepsi 400 with Dale Jarrett running in second position. And back in third spot is Ricky Rudd. Let's go to Jerry Punch, who's with Coach Gibbs.
I haven't seen him smile this much since that big football game at the end of the season, Coach. You've got to be awfully pleased. Your car running so well here early on.
Yeah, we really are. It's second half of the season, and our guys have worked hard. We got great sponsorship, Interstate, Food Line, and Shell and Chevrolet have done a great job for us. I just really am fortunate we got people like this, and the car's running the way it is right now. I feel pretty good. I had a good day today.
It's already been a wonderful day. You came down with the president.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I was already down here, and when they called, said I could ride with him, I said, I better not pass this up. I flew back last night and flew down with the president. So he's a heck of a guy, and he's a race man, too. Knows quite a bit about it. I think it's his 3rd time here.
Well, 2 of the most popular men in Washington, of course, President Bush and the coach of the Redskins.
Yeah, I think I'd fly back to Washington, too, if I got a chance to ride on Air Force One. We'll be back with more in just a moment from Daytona. This beautiful view is from Airship Shamu, SeaWorld's blimp. It's 7 stories high, 194 feet long, 2/3 the size of a football field. Airship Shamu's envelope contains 235,000 cubic feet of helium. It cruises at an altitude of approximately 1,200 feet at a speed of about 34 miles an hour. Well, today it's horsepower, but pedal power begins today, and we will have the most extensive coverage in the history of the Tour de France. It begins today at 4:30 Eastern Time. That's 1:30 on the West Coast. Greg LeMond, of course, be competing for the coveted yellow jersey, and our coverage consists of updates throughout the next few days. 23 days, 2,300 miles, covering 7 countries. ESPN's coverage of the Tour de France beginning later this afternoon.
Did LeMond win the Tour de Pont? Did Greg LeMond win that? I think he did.
Wish him good luck in the Tour de France. Well, Jarrett's hanging right with Ernie Irvan.
Yeah, they're broken away a little bit from Ricky Rudd right now. Harry Gant, who's one of the drivers up in the top 5 in the point standing, just got lapped a few laps ago. He's not having a good day, Bob. He's back in 33rd position. And he's already been lapped.
You know, he had the same problems at Talladega. Remember that in May? His car did not run that well.
We have completed more than a 4th of this race, and we've been green since the very drop of the green flag. And here is Sterling Marlin, Davey Allison, Morgan Shepherd, Kenny Schrader, and Morgan Shepherd, and we're just about 4 laps now from pit stops. And we take a look at how the field stands right now in an Autolite field summary. Watch for your favorite driver. This is how they were running last lap.
And when they start making pit stops, some guys may be able to run further than others, but they're going to stop because they can't take a chance on losing that draft.
Yeah, and hope they make a pit stop equal to whoever they're running with in the draft and can come back up and hook up together again. All of those cars we're seeing on the screen are still on the lead lap. In fact, there are still 32 cars that are on the lead lap.
Well, let's get more on pit strategy and a report from Dr. Jerry Punch.
Back in February of the Daytona 500, we saw a couple of cars making this first green flag pit stop, only changed 2 tires. Those 2 cars were Davey Allison and Morgan Shepherd. We both know they finished 1-2 in the 500. Most of the teams opted to change 4 tires. Now, the Goodyear engineers tell me that these radial tires are so good here, and the crews will back it up, that you really don't need to change tires at all. Left side tires can go the entire 400 miles. In fact, many crews think the right side tires can also go 400 miles, but I got to believe Ernie Irvan and some of the leaders will change 4 tires the first time they're in. As Bobby Hamilton brings the Country Town Drink Mix car down pit road, he is among the first cars to make the pit stop. We're to be expecting to see the other cars, including the leaders, to pit around lap 48 to 50 on the first time in, as they change right side tires and fuel the Hamilton car under the green flag. 1 can of fuel in, 2nd can going in, and only a 2-tire change for Bobby Hamilton, former Rookie of the Year, as the field comes rumbling by. Hamilton is down and away, headed back to turn 1.
You see the signal to go is when the jack goes down. The jack man waited until the car was full of fuel. They got to get it full of gas.
Yeah, the tires had already been changed on the right side, but the jack remained up until the fuel went in, and Bobby Hamilton then took the Country Time Chevrolet back on the racetrack. He gave up 13th position to become the first to make a regularly scheduled stop.
And he went a lap down on that stop, Bob, but I clocked him at 18 and 7/800 seconds on that stop. A couple more or 3 seconds would have got him a 4-tire change. And I don't know. I believe that you'll see most of those maybe taking on 4 tires. Those up front.
Well, Jimmy Hensley in the Phillips 66 in-car camera had a great run at Pocono and looking for an equally good run here this afternoon.
Ted Musgrave is in. Here comes several other cars. Bobby Hillin coming in. Has a new sponsor on his car today. Spamberger on Bobby Hillin's car. Dick Trickle is in. So is Chad Little and the Mellon Ford.
He's followed Alan Kowicki, the Hooters Ford director, in front of Hensley.
Here you can see pit work being completed on some of the cars. Bobby Hillin, Dick Trickle. Also the number 9 car being driven by Chad Little. It would seem that perhaps, again, factory strategy would play into when some of these cars make pit stops.
Well, I don't think there's any question but what those 3 cars running up front will come in together, Bob, when they come in.
Well, the number 18 car may have a problem with that strategy, right, Jerry?
That's exactly right, Bob. It may be a roll of the dice awfully early for Dale Jarrett and his Chevrolet. The 4 car, the 18 car, and the 5 car would all like to pit together. They've asked Jarrett, how far can you go? They want to go like 2 or 3 more laps. But I'm not sure Jarrett can make it 2 or 3 more laps, so they may all pit a lap or so early so they can pit together and utilize that General Motors Chevy draft to stay up front. In fact, Ernie Irvan's crew getting ready to call him in next time by.
And Jerry, up here on our end of pit road, Larry McReynolds, crew chief for Davey Allison, has already come and talked to Mike Beam, the crew chief for Sterling Marlin, and then down to the Wood Brothers. Those 3 cars are planning to pit together, take on only 2 tires, and get back out on track together to maintain that Ford draft to try and keep the Chevrolets in sight.
Here comes Ernie Irvan. He's dropped down off the banking and is headed for pit road. Dale Jarrett and Ricky Rudd stay out. Jerry, Ernie is headed toward you.
And the 1991 Daytona 500 winner, Ernie Irvan, an early leader, brings his Chevrolet, the bright yellow and red Kodak colors, to the attention of Tony Glover and the crew. And they told me moments ago they are going to go ahead and gamble and use the time to change all 4 tires. Remember back in February, Allison and Morgan Shepherd and the other cars that finished the top 5 only changed 2 tires. Also on pit road, the car number 6 of Abilene Ford of Mark Martin. Here is Kyle Petty and Wally Dollenbach down pit road and left side tires. And now going on the Kodak Chevrolet, he is down the way, and the king, Richard Petty, makes an entry on the pit road. You're watching Richard Petty inside the car as they work on the STP Pontiac. John?
Jerry, it was right side tire change, and they also put some wedge in the cars. Richard is already down and away. Now, they are having a problem with the radio. We don't know if they've been able to pick it up or fix it on that last stop, but Richard can hear from the pits, but they can't hear Richard. So maybe they got that fixed that last time. We'll have to go back and check. We're awaiting Sterling Marlin and the rest of the Ford crew down pit road shortly.
Richard Petty gaining speed, but while he does, several cars going around him. Here are Ken Schrader and Davey Allison now.
And right behind these 2 cars, you see the red car just in the tip. That's Bill Elliott. He has run this group down.
Really, I think he's been the fastest car on the racetrack the last 10 laps, but he was definitely gaining on the leaders. Dale Jarrett not coming in this time. I'll tell you, I'm not sure how smart it is for any of them now that Ernie Irvan, who was leading the race, has come in, and he's back out there with 4 fresh tires. He's going to have the advantage of probably running a second to lap faster on those 4 tires, and they aren't going to be in his draft when they get back out there.
Here comes Sterling Marlin, and he's leading some dance partners down pit road. There is a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit on pit road. John?
Sterling Marlin pulls in. Now Mike Beam waved at Davey Allison like, what are you doing? Davey stayed out on the track. Morgan Shepherd is in. Sterling is in. It'll be a right tire change only. Mike Beam and the crew will make an adjustment on the left rear. This car has been handling fairly loose, waiting for the last drop of gasoline to go in. Morgan Shepherd is out in the way. Sterling's still waiting. Now Sterling goes away.
Alan Kulwicki is also on pit road, and now we look up toward the end of the racetrack to see if Dale Jarrett will come in or Ricky Rudd. He does not. You can see several leaving the pits, but Jarrett maintains the lead and stays out on the racetrack.
Okay, what they're doing, Bob, they've gone a little bit past a quarter way past this race. They're going to try to make it on 3 pit stops, and those that stopped earlier might not be able to do it in case this thing should go green all the way.
Interesting strategy. There's Davey Allison coming in. Jerry punches right there to watch Davey stop.
The Daytona 500 winner, Davey Allison's Haviland crew, going to work on his Ford Thunderbird, the same car he's carried to victory lane. In fact, he's pitting about 20 feet from victory lane down toward turn 1 part of pit road. Right side tires going on the Allison car. Only 2 tires. He's full of fuel, and he's away.
13.8-second pit stop for Davey Allison, and the Haviland Ford is back out on the racetrack. And now Dale Jarrett does relinquish the lead and comes in for a stop. Ricky Rudd stays out on the racetrack. He's the leader of the event, but here comes Dale in, and Jerry Punch, once again, we throw it down to you.
And the young second-generation driver brings the Joe Gibbs Chevrolet very deliberately down pit road. Remember, Ernie Irvan took 4 tires. We just saw Davey Allison take 2, and the call has been made by Jimmy Maycar. It'll be 2 tires only as they clean the windshield. This Interstate Batteries crew hustling to get every ounce of fuel in the car. You heard Ned Jarrett mention they may try to make it on 1 last pit stop. So getting the car full of fuel is very critical. Dale Jarrett revving the engine, puts it in gear, and pulls away.
Dale Jarrett back out on the racetrack after his first pit stop, and all these have been under green. And now here comes Ricky Rudd into the pit area, and he makes his first scheduled pit stop. And so does Ken Schrader. Ken is right behind Ricky.
So now Bill Elliott is the leader of the race. The Budweiser Ford is now leading the race.
Teammates coming in here, Rudd and Ken Schrader. Both members, of course, of the Rick Hendrick team.
If Rudd was pretty far ahead of Schrader on the racetrack, perhaps 3 seconds or so, and they'll have a little bit of a jump on him here in the pits. Looks like that's just going to be a 2-tire change. 4 tires. It is 4, yeah.
They're going around to the left side and changing tires on the left side, and so will Schrader's team.
And we can see 18 seconds, 20 seconds. Okay, Rudd's finally through at 21.9. He's out. So Schrader, another 2 or 3 seconds. Finally, yes, he's down now. He's away about 3 seconds behind.
Kodiak Chevy rolls away. The Quaker State car on pit road, and so is Harry Gant. Here comes Bill Elliott in for a stop, and so he relinquishes the lead. Boy, he ran, 53 laps.
It's good gas mileage. No doubt about it. Could make a difference at the end.
Let's go to John Kernan.
Budweiser crew going to work on the right side, cleaning that windshield, waiting to get the last drop of gasoline in. It will be only a 2-tire change. Now, Bill just a little bit hot in the car. They had a garden hose going into the car as they made the stop in 13.2 seconds, spraying some cold water on Bill.
That's the problem. A lot of these guys are going to have, without any caution flags, they're going to get so hot in the car. Elliott goes on the racetrack. Now, here comes Ernie Irvan and Dale Jarrett. Are they going to catch him? Yes.
There are Irvan and Jarrett moving right behind each other into turn number 1. Or Jarrett running right behind Ernie Irvan. They pass Elliott.
Yeah, it takes a long time to get your speed up to restrict the place. They'll be 3 or 4 seconds ahead of him once they get their speed up.
54 laps completed out of 160 in the Pepsi 400 from Daytona. And King Richard in his final race here at the Pepsi 400. Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. There's the king, Richard Petty, who started outside the front row, now finds himself in 10th position at the end of 12th position, rather, at the end of 57 laps. Up front, it is Ernie Irvan and Dale Jarrett.
Pit stops have been made. Nothing has changed. The guys that were running 1 and 2 are still running 1 and 2.
Back in 3rd position is Morgan Shepherd. 4th is Davey Allison. 5th is Bill Elliott. 6th, Sterling Marlin. And 7th is Mark Martin.
Now, Ricky Rudd, remember, was running 3rd. He's all the way back in, what's that, about 7th or 8th spot. But he changed 4 tires, which may prove to be an advantage 20 or 30 laps from now. We'll just have to wait and see.
Of course, now Ernie Irvan changed 4 tires, too. Didn't he? Thought he did.
Did he? Yeah, I guess he did. Ooh, he's got 4 tires and still leading the race.
That's pretty good.
He's looking pretty good.
There was a separation from 1st and 2nd back to 3rd, and now 3rd place goes to Davey Allison as he passes Morgan Shepherd. And there's Bill Elliott still working that high outside groove.
And he has started working that high groove about 40 laps ago, and he has worked it to perfection and just might be the fastest car on the racetrack as he just goes blowing by Morgan Shepherd on the outside.
And his teammate, Sterling Marlin, is looking inside of Morgan Shepherd to try to take that position away. Marlin, the pole sitter for this race, eligible for the Unical bonus money amounting to $7,600 as it goes back to the original amount now.
Watch Elliott as he goes in the corner, and he's going to go right up next to the wall. Watch this. See, these other guys are running on the bottom of the racetrack. He's up on top. Now, one advantage that he's going to have is there's no traffic up there. These other guys that are accustomed to running on the bottom of the racetrack, when they catch a slower car, they're going to slow down. Elliott will never have to crack the front.
Now that the pit stops have been made, the first series of pit stops, we're going to bring you another field summary and show you again where your favorite driver is running. This one presented by Autolite. They're in the first 5. This is how they were running last lap.
We saw Morgan Shepherd drop back there a little bit on that 1 lap. He's currently running in the 7th position, but Richard Petty now back to 14th. There's still 28 cars in the lead lap. Drops back in the Junie Donlevy car. 28, and there you can see the 28th car is Stanley Smith.
Speaking of Junie Donlevy, 50 years married today. He's celebrating his golden wedding anniversary.
I went to a little party they had for him last night, and what a wonderful man. Last night was really a nice moment for Junie, his wife Phyllis. You know, I said, why'd you get married on the 4th of July? I said, I was working at the shipyard in Norfolk. That's the only day I could get off. I worked every other day. We took a vacation, so I went and got married.
Okay, that's nice.
Well, it's probably also easy to remember, don't you imagine?
He's probably remembering, I'm sure.
That way you bring her to Daytona for the wedding anniversary every year.
That's it. You see Bill Ayers, Richard Petty.
He's currently running in 16th position, and John Kernan has a report on his progress.
Bob standing by with crew chief Robbie Loomis. And Robbie, you had a bit of a radio problem early on, but you managed to get that fixed?
Yes, we got that fixed. He was just busy racing there, and his mic, I guess, vibrated away from his mouth a little bit. He scooted that thing up, and he's ready to go now. Car's a little loose. If we can get it tightened up, we'll be in good shape.
What about Richard? You know, the heat, there's been no caution, basically no time to rest since the green flag dropped. How's he holding up in there?
Physically, he's holding up good, but he's not too happy with the car right now, as loose as it is.
That's Robbie Loomis. They will keep working to try and get that car tightened up on the next round of pit stops.
Richard Petty driving along at about 180 miles an hour. As we go back up front and show you the first 2, Ernie Irvan and Dale Jarrett.
And some heavy traffic there. We mentioned that Stanley Smith was the last car on the lead lap. They just put him a lap down. Hut Strickland is right there in front of them as well as Irvan cuts through that traffic. Boy, look at him cut through that traffic.
Wow. Dale Jarrett is caught back there.
Yes, he is. Yeah, don't know which way to go. Now he goes in the middle.
Goes right in the middle.
That was Dave Marcus on the outside that just kind of backed off the gas and let Jarrett in.
So Hut Strickland also went a lap down, so now that leaves 26 cars in the lead lap.
And we're at lap number 63. About 17 laps away from the halfway point. We have been all green so far. Ernie Irvin leading Dale Jarrett at the Pepsi 400. Trackbacks are brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil.
One of the latest and most significant innovations that come along in the past 12 months for driver safety and comfort has been the air-conditioned helmet. Now, Brett Bodine was among the first drivers to use that helmet and realize its first full potential. Now, Brett, why don't you show us how this actually works?
Certainly, Jerry. Well, to start off with, we have to obtain outside air from outside of the car. We do that through a NACA duct placed on the B-pillar window. That 3-inch hose then is led through a fan to speed and control the airflow over here to our cooler. Now, our cooler is filled with ice prior to the race.
This is a regular cooler, right? Like the fans bring with diet soda or
exactly.
chicken.
We found
or
that to be the most efficient. Inside this cooler, though, a little different than what the fans would have, 2 aluminum extrusions. The air will pass through these extrusions and be cooled by the ice being in contact with the aluminum. Now, as that hose leaves the cooler, it is insulated to keep the cool air contained inside the hose. Comes around here to the seat. Now, over here, as I'm buckling up for the start of the race, I'll plug this hose into the side of my helmet, and then down inside in the front part of the helmet is a vent opening so that the cooled, refreshed air can come out right in front of my mouth. I can breathe it for 500 miles.
And this innovation seems to be much, much better than those rubberized cool suits in the past, because actually, in an operating room medical setting, if we want to raise or lower a patient's temperature, we change the temperature of the air they're breathing, which is exactly what we're doing now with the Winston Cup driver.
And having an opportunity to cool yourself off is certainly important here this afternoon with temperatures in the mid-90s. There's Richard Petty, and he is wearing one of those cool helmets, and so is Jimmy Hensley as he is competing here in the Trot-Body Phillips 66 car. Our leaders up front, Ernie Irvin, followed closely by Dale Jarrett. Third is Davey Allison, fourth is Elliott, and fifth is Sterling Marlin.
And Ned, I think Bill Elliott and Davey might be gaining on this front, too. What do you think?
Yeah, they're gaining about 7 or 8 hundredths of a second a lap. Yeah, they're barely gaining, but, you know, they are picking up a little bit.
We'll take a look back through the field as we get a chance to. There's the front two, Ernie Irvin, Dale Jarrett. There comes
third place
Andy Belmont. There's Davey Allison, Bill Elliott. That's third and fourth place car going by Derek Cope from Pure Letter Chevrolet.
Derek just went a lap down a few laps ago.
He's running in 27th position.
That was Stanley Smith up there in the car number 41, that blue car.
Sterling Marlin, the pole sitter, Maxwell House Ford Thunderbird.
He's in fifth.
And this Derek Cope. We just talked about him.
Behind him is Dave Marcus, car number 71.
WEHR on the side of that sponsor.
Next car, Morgan Shepherd. He's currently the fifth place car here this afternoon, the Sitco Ford.
Make that the sixth place, Benny.
It is?
Morgan Shepherd, yep.
Well, there's the seventh place car, the sixth car of Mark Martin of Valvoline Ford and the Tide Chevrolet of Ricky Rudd. Rudd led the race earlier.
We have 10 laps to the halfway point. Lap number 70 has been completed.
There's a 12 car, Hud Strickland of Bestis Buick. Remember, he was lapped just a couple of laps ago.
Chevrolet.
28. Yeah, Ray Bestis Chevrolet, right?
Did I say Buick?
Yeah.
I normally do.
Yeah, that's a habit. Whole habits are hard
tough,
to break.
that's right. It's tough to break.
There's our ninth place car, Jeff Bodine, the Motorcraft Ford.
Sort of caught out there by himself right now. Doesn't have anyone to draft. We'll see how far it is behind him until we see Harry Gant. Now, Gant went 2 laps down a little while back, so he's really struggling.
Yeah, he is. He's in 32nd spot and already 2 laps down to the field. And there is Chad Little,
who's also a lap down.
Yep.
Let's see, Harry Mellon Performance Car. Kenny Schrader. Remember who ran so well, was up front, made that 4-tire stop, and hasn't had anyone to draft with, and he's falling back. He now is in 10th place spot.
And behind him, there's the new Spam Burger sponsored car driven by Bobby Hillen.
And he's in 30th position.
Team Ireland car.
And then a whole group of cars led by Darrell Waltrip, car number 17. Right behind him is Bobby Hamilton. Then comes the Quaker State Ford driven by Brett Bodine.
Wally Dallenbach. and Rusty Wallace. All these cars racing for position.
And look at this. The average speed is about 9 miles an hour better than the record. This is a restrictor plate race.
Race record is a non-restrictor plate record.
And it's part of that is blamed on the fact that we have had no cautions to this point, and we are nearing the halfway point. This race has never been run without a caution. The fewest number of cautions ever to wave during a Pepsi 400, 2, and that has occurred twice.
That's the fewest amount, too?
Yep. Here's Michael Waltrip in the Pennzoil Pontiac.
He's 16th.
16th, yep.
Sort of caught out there by himself, too, with no one to draft. It's not too far behind is Kyle Petty and Alan Kowicki. You can see them coming into the picture there. They're sort of hooked up in a two-car draft.
At 17th and 18th place, and Richard Petty behind them, the 19th place car. I saw the King a little bit ago kind of wag his head like like he was having some kind of problems, and he may be getting hot. That's some of the results that some of the reports we've been getting, that he may be awfully hot in that car. John Kernan, what do you think? Is Richard hot?
Yeah, you better believe it. He was radioed in. They're looking for a relief driver right now. They're trying to find Dale Earnhardt, but Robbie Loomis just told me they'd settle for just about anybody right now. He said, hey, John, you got your driving suit on. So I don't know. The King is hoping they find a relief driver pretty quick, because he just, to quote him on the radio, just kind of plumb worn out.
Well, go ahead and get in there, John.
No.
We'll cover for you.
No, absolutely not.
For the sake of the other drivers, don't do it, John.
Well, we're getting closer to the halfway point. If you've entered the Gillette Halfway Challenge and are called at home and can name the driver who won the Gillette Halfway Challenge Award, you'll win a new Chevrolet Lumina. You want to enter the next contest in Miller Genuine Draft 500 Pocono on July the 19th. Write to Gillette Halfway Challenge, Post Office Box 2246, St. Petersburg, Florida, 337312246. You have to be 18, and we must receive your entry by July the 18th to be eligible for the next Gillette Halfway Challenge at Pocono.
There's the leader, Ernie Irvan, still the Kodak Chevrolet, and the Interstate Battery Chevrolet running second.
And just a little over 5 laps to the halfway point. Ernie Irvan, your leader at the moment, closely followed by Dale Jarrett. Welcome to our live coverage and happy July 4th from all of us at ESPN. Here is Airship Shamu, painted black and white like America's favorite killer whale at SeaWorld. Shamu is joined by dolphins, penguins, sharks, and other fascinating sea creatures at SeaWorld parks in Florida, California, Texas, and Ohio. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Air Force One that delivered President George Bush to the facility here earlier today to be the Grand Marshal of this event. And speaking of NASCAR Winston Cup racing, on July 19th, we will be live at Pocono International Raceway for that Winston Cup event. The defending champion is Rusty Wallace. Always great to go back to Pocono. We were there just about a month ago, and we return on July 19th, and we hope you will join us or be there in person if you can for the Pocono 500 at 12 noon Eastern Time, July 19th. We are coming up to the halfway point. 78 laps have been completed. As they come down next time, it'll be lap 79, and then that will be one more to the halfway point, and $10,000 to the driver who is leading at that point.
I would say Ernie Irvan's odds-on favorite right now, wouldn't you?
Looking pretty good.
Since he's led about 90% of the races so far.
Look how far he's keeping that car on the bottom of the racetrack. We talked about Ellie and some others that are working high, but he is working as low as he can.
Yeah, his car is really working good down there, no doubt about it. I'm wondering if Dale Jarrett isn't maybe struggling a little bit just to keep up.
Looks like he might be just a little bit off right now. He changed 2 tires, right, man?
Yeah.
And Ernie did change 4, I guess, on that Kodak Chevrolet. So, but now down in turns 1 and 2, Ernie goes up the racetrack a little bit. Dale stays on the bottom.
Well, he's got to do it this time, doesn't he, if he's going to get that 10,000?
He sure does. This next time around will be the cross flags, an indication of the halfway point, and Dale Jarrett has sneaked up on the rear bumper of Ernie Irvan, acting like he'd like to take home that $10,000.
I don't think there's any question for what he'd like to do. But does he have enough juice to do it? I don't know. I don't think he can do it.
Let us see. They come out of corner number 4 and head on to the tri-oval, and it's Ernie Irvan leading Dale Jarrett across the line. Yes, indeed. The halfway point has been reached, and Ernie Irvan is the leader of the Pepsi 400 at the halfway point. He takes home the $10,000 Gillette Halfway Challenge Award. If you've entered the contest and are called at home and can correctly identify Ernie Irvan as the winner of the Gillette Halfway Challenge, you could win the Chevrolet Lumina Z34. Ernie Irvan is the man to identify if you're called by the Gillette Halfway Challenge.
No use to pass him now. Get that $10,000.
He can't pay you back some of that money he owes you now, Ned, because he ain't winning. He certainly doesn't look like he's struggling now to keep up, though, does he?
Well, he's dropping back a little bit in the corner. There's the 28 car, Davey Allison and Bill Elliott, third and fourth place cars. They were gaining on those front two for a while, fellas, but now they're losing ground to them.
And again, Elliott is still working that high line, and just back there in fifth position, not too far behind, is Sterling Marlin. Look at Bill head for the top.
I think he's going. Yeah, I think he'll be able to lead this pack faster than Davey can, and that may be planned. Davey may say, "Okay, Bill, if you can go faster, get on up there and let's run those guys down."
So Bill Elliott moves into third position. Allison fourth, Marlin fifth. Three Fords working together.
The one thing Elliott did, he just cooled the car off inside about 15 degrees. That's for sure.
He's pulled away from Davey. Davey's car pushed up coming off of turn two. We reported earlier that he had a little bit of a pushing problem, and that allowed Elliott to pull away. Sterling thought he was going to get him, but he couldn't do it.
And Sterling all day has just run right on the bottom of the racetrack. And look, Elliott already, what is that, 15 car lengths on Davey?
By himself. That's pretty impressive, although he is picking up the draft of the Charlie Blocksback car, number 9. Sparkplug sponsors that car.
Wait, less than a lap. Elliott is just motored away from Allison.
You got Elliott racing with himself, right, Bob? Meanwhile, behind these guys, Sterling Marlin looked on the inside, could not pass Davey Allison once again. Davey still maintaining that position. That's fourth place position. There's fifth place car, Sterling Marlin.
Blocksback, the 90 car we saw there is currently in the 25th position. Richard Petty coming into the pits. King probably, well, I don't know, 82 laps now, so we're a little past halfway.
We speculated on the possibility of a relief driver. John, is that what they're setting up for?
That's exactly right, Bob. They found Eddie Bierswell. Eddie's also had his problems with the heat, though, today as Richard pulls the SDP Pontiac into his pit lane. Eddie burned his foot in his car before he got out and retired for the day. Now the crew will go to work. They will also change 4 tires, put in a full load of fuel. The King climbs out of the car, very, very hot, as he says, "Get out of my way. I need to get over and sit down and get some oxygen and get some cool towels on me." Bierswell goes into the race cars. The team works on the left side. Now, they were concerned. At first, they thought about Buddy Baker, but the seat was not wide enough for Baker, so they had to go down pit road, look for Jimmy Means, Dale Earnhardt, couldn't find them. They finally found Eddie Bierswell. He is now getting strapped up to take over the King's ride, and we'll check in with Richard, but right now it just looks like he's extremely hot and just worn out.
Well, I'm sure it's a big disappointment for Richard not being able to go all the way in his last event here at Daytona, but ladies and gentlemen, it is hot here, and it's very humid, and conditions are very uncomfortable. And when you reach 55 years of age, your stamina just isn't what it was when you're younger.
And that's one thing I was thinking of when Richard was on the podium today. And talking about all the places he's been this week, reading the newspaper. He's been to Orlando, been to Tampa, all over the state of Florida. You know, he's just, in this kind of heat, he's physically worn out and not ready for this kind of race.
Taking a lot out of him, no doubt about it. It's been 95 degrees here for the last 2 or 3 days, and I assume it's about the same today.
The car's still sitting in the pits.
Boy, he's losing a lot of time. He's been in there a little over 2 minutes already.
So Eddie Bierswell gets on the gloves.
They're taking off.
And they are preparing to push the STP Pontiac back out onto the racetrack with Richard Petty not in it.
That's too bad.
They're the first and second, Ernie Irvan, and here is a Western Auto race recap. Ernie Irvan has led 65 of the 80 laps. No caution so far. 24 on the lead lap, 9 liters and 6 changes. Average speed a record 182.5 miles an hour. Those that have led include Richard Petty. He's led the field for the first 5 circuits. Sterling Marlin, Ernie Irvan, Ricky Rudd, Dale Jarrett, and Bill Elliott has also led a lap, each of those picking up 5 Winston Cup bonus points. Out out of the race, Dale Earnhardt was the very first with the burn piston. He finishes in 40th position. Jimmy Means is out. Eddie Bierschwale is also out, and Bobby Gerhardt is retired from competition. But Bierschwale, remember, is in Richard Petty's car. The Western Auto Mechanic of the Year standings going into this event. Tim Brewer on top, leading Tony Glover, Larry McReynolds, Steve Meal, and Donnie Richardson.
There goes Davey Allison, their fourth-place car. Sterling Marner, pole sitter.
Bill Elliott has just driven away from them, fellas. After he passed them, he didn't even look back. And he's holding the pace about with the front two running cars.
He's not gaining on the leaders now.
Well, staying about the same, but he's doing that on his own as opposed to having other cars to draft with.
Yeah, he has no, Bill Elliott, we see these two cars drafting together, but Elliott in front of him has no drafting partner at all.
Other than some lap cars that he's catching, which he's taking advantage of every time he moves close to one.
Wouldn't it be great if we could run this race caution-free? The last caution-free NASCAR Winston Cup race was in 1984, the Champion Spark Plug 400 at Michigan. There have been 5 caution-free Winston Cup races in the NASCAR modern era.
Now Dale Jarrett lost the draft of the car number 4 of Ernie Irvin.
Let's get out to Jerry Punch with a comment on the fuel situation here.
Well, guys, Ernie Irvin does not want to see this race go caution-free. You know, he made a pit stop on lap 48. So did Dale Jarrett a lap later, but Bill Elliott made it to lap 53. And that means, as my voice goes away, that means that Elliott may be able to make it on just one more stop, whereas Irvin and Jarrett, rest of them will have to make at least 2 stops. So unless we get a caution flag, Elliott may win it by virtue of fuel mileage.
Boy, our hats off to Dr. Jerry Punch, who, of course, hosted our trackside show and our salute to Richard Petty. And, Doc, you might be hunting a doctor here before long. That voice continues to go.
Well, I'll just be glad when the afternoon's over. It's been a long week here, and
we'll
get over it. It's awfully warm down here. I feel for Richard Petty. You know, it was about 94 or 95 yesterday. It's going to be up closer to 100 today. And here in the pits, our last check was about 116 degrees. The crews, everyone's got to be suffering, but I really feel for the drivers in those cars.
I would imagine that nearly everyone watching our telecast this afternoon is either in their air-conditioned living room or perhaps sitting outside where it's nice and cool. But it is hot here, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see, we bid farewell and a big thanks to President George Bush for attending the Pepsi 400 and being its Grand Marshal. Air Force One is about to lift off and head toward North Carolina, where the president will later this afternoon attend a parade celebrating Independence Day 1992. See ya, President George Bush, and thank you for being here at Daytona International Speedway. Back with more live coverage of the Pepsi 400 after this. The top 5 after 91 of the 160 laps in the Pepsi 400 at Daytona. Ernie Irvin, Dale Jarrett, Bill Elliott, Davey Allison, and Sterling Marlin. Our Speed World coverage is being brought to you by Buick and your local Buick dealers. Remember Buick, the new symbol for quality in America. By the more than 600 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the right parts at the right price. And by Goodyear, the unanimous choice of every NASCAR Winston Cup team. Ernie Irvin puts a lap on the number 1 car driven by Rick Mast, and he is in 20th position, so 19 cars now remain on the lead lap.
Well, there's been a lot of drivers that would like to have seen a caution box so they can get their cars dialed in a little bit better and also to stay in the lead lap.
Hey, there's a vehicle that's dialed in, headed toward North Carolina. That's Air Force One, carrying President George Bush away from Daytona International Speedway. And the picture from Airship Shamu flying overhead Daytona International Speedway and giving us some great shots.
He's doing, what'd you say, 35 miles an hour? And here's a car running 195 miles per hour.
Wonder what Air Force One is doing.
I don't know. He probably outrunning Ernie Irvin right now.
I'll bet.
There's Ted Musgrave in the Jasper engine. That's a Chevrolet. Now, they ran a Ford at Michigan. They plan on running a Chevrolet here in Talladega and a Ford the rest of the races.
You know, we talked about Richard Petty so much today. By the way, he is out of the race, and the car even that was driven for a few laps by Eddie Bierschwale is back behind the wall as we watch another Auto Light Field summary. We talked about this being Richard's final race here at Daytona, his final year as a driver. Speculation continues as who will be driving for Richard Petty next year when he becomes a car owner. And a lot of speculation still centers around Ted Musgrave.
Yep, that rumor has certainly been pretty prevalent around the garage area. I understand that he has a contract with his current car owner, DK Ulrich, and the folks who own it through next year. So I guess that's something that would have to be done with.
As we watch the Auto Light Field summary, second round pit stop starting. There's Bobby Hamilton and Wally Dallenbach coming down pit road making their pit stops.
They were running 14th and 15th.
Well, Bobby Hamilton was the first to pit for the first series of pit stops, and here he is again as he brings the Country Time Chevrolet in for some tires and some needed fuel, and Wally Dallenbach Jr. is the one that's pitted there at the bottom of your screen.
He's having a good run here today.
This will be a 4-tire change for Wally.
And they're still waiting on the tank, gasoline tank to get full on the 68 car. Finally, they get the fuel cell filled up. 4 tires on Dallenbach's car, the Keystone Beer car. Now he's down and away.
Wally Dallenbach Jr. builds up speed going out of the pit area. He was shown in 17th before coming in for the stop.
Here's the leader. He's broken away from Dale Jarrett now. He ran through a pack of cars, was able to pick up draft, and was able to get away a little bit.
That's kind of an advantage for Bill Elliott, I think, because he was out there all by himself, and now he has to block that Ernie Irvin by himself, so both of them on equal footing.
Ernie Irvin 12th in the Winston Cup point standings coming into this event. 446 behind Davey Allison. We ask Ernie Irvin, what are your reflections on the first half of the NASCAR Winston Cup season?
Man, it's been up and down. You know, the cars run competitive about every race we went to. A couple of them, it wasn't that great, but you know, there's just been a lot of things happen this year that we hadn't had a whole lot of control over, and but the cars ran good, been competitive, and you know, with all the fighting we've had to do with the cylinder heads, I think we've had a pretty good first half. The points don't show it, but you know, when we look back at the races, we know what went wrong and what we can do to make it better. So I think we're going to be strong in the second half.
Well, of course, he was the winner at Sears Point on the road course. It won't be too many weeks before we're back on the road course at Watkins Glen.
He said fighting with the cylinder heads. Remember, August the 1st, all these General Motors cars have to run the Chevrolet cylinder heads. That's been mandated by NASCAR, and these guys have really been struggling trying to find adequate horsepower with the Chevrolet cylinder heads.
Right now, the Chevrolet of Ernie Irvin is well in command of this race as he has separated himself now a little bit from second place Dale Jarrett, and we are nearing the 100 lap mark. This will complete lap 98 when Ernie comes down this time.
Well, he was low on the racetrack, and he is coming in.
Yes, he is.
I thought that he might be coming in, and sure enough, he is.
Dale Jarrett takes over the lead. Ernie Irvin is on pit road. Jerry Punch is there to call the second pit stop of the day for Ernie.
And Ernie Irvin, who has been the dominator here in the early laps of this Pepsi 400, brings this Kodak Chevrolet down, slams the brakes on, and he's over the line, and they are going to make him back up. Cost him some valuable time. The car, the brake spot, but they are fueling the car. Remember, green flag pit stop, and they are going to change all 4 tires. Lug nuts are off on the left side. They did not come around yet. What are you doing? Whoa, 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 whoa. The left side lug nuts are off. The lug nuts are off, and Ernie Irvin is moving down pit road. Apparently, it's taking at least 3 of the lug nuts off, and he's making his way back to turn 1.
Oh, boy, miscommunication there is really going to cost him, because he'll have to come back in the pits. He can't run on a couple of lug nuts. And evidently, there are a couple of them that are still holding the left wheels on there.
Well, let's hope they hold on long enough for him to make it back to the pit area. Boy, he came in, it seemed awfully hot, and had to slam on the brakes and overslid the markings, and they had to back the car up. Let's take another look at it.
So you see they've already backed the car up. That white line directly in front of the car, the nose of the car cannot go over that. They have to back the car up if he goes over it. And we see the guy on the left front. He took some lug nuts off, and then he put them back on. He tightened them back up.
Oh, did he? Okay.
You saw Tony Glover on the radio said, tighten those nuts back up. We don't have time. We've had to back the car up.
Okay, so he's out there running at full speed now, and apparently it seems to be going pretty well.
The lug nuts on the left rear of the car weren't touched. They were on the right front, but the left front rather, but they tightened it back up, and so everything is okay for Ernie Irvin. He has made his second pit stop of the afternoon. Is that a fair assessment, Jerry?
That's exactly what happened, Bob. We saw him take one lug nut off the left front tire, and then I looked to watch him push the car back in the stall, and Tony said we lost so much time. Put the lug nut back on and put the lug nut back on, and told him to go ahead with 2 tires only. So it could have been a costly mistake, but the crew recovered very quickly.
All right, so Ernie Irvin now is back up at speed, and the lead is held by Dale Jarrett, but he'll need a pit stop soon in the Pepsi 400. Here at the Pepsi 400.
And Rusty Wallace slowed going in the third corner, so he's either out of fuel or he's had some type of problem.
I'd say he's out of fuel. I'd say he's low in fuel, and it probably cut off on him, and he wanted to keep enough in there that he could have it running when he got into the pits.
Other pit stops are occurring. Sterling Marlin goes back out of the track. Terry Labonte is in, so is Jeff Bodine, and of course Rusty Wallace. Is Miller Genuine Draft Crew going to work on that car?
And Sterling Marlin changed the left side. He only changed 2 tires, but he changed the left side.
There's Ricky Rudd rolling to a stop.
Davey Allison coming in.
Let's see. Rudd changed 4 the last time. Will he only change 2 this time? Probably. Let's see. Rusty goes back out, so I guess you're right, Ned. He was out of fuel. Terry Labonte goes back out with the Sunoco Ford.
Right side work on the Tide Chevrolet, driven by Ricky Rudd. And Davey Allison, he's already finished with his pit stop. Obviously just 2 tires.
And they're having trouble on the, I guess they're waiting to get the car full of fuel. Finally to get that Tide Chevrolet filled up, but Davey Allison is 3 or 4 seconds ahead of the Tide Chevrolet.
Dale Jarrett losing about a second to lap to Ernie Irvin out there. Irvin has those fresh right side tires, and Jarrett staying out there. And I'm sure he's trying to stretch that fuel mileage, but it's costing him a lot of time on the racetrack. But if it stays green, that might all come out okay. It probably will.
There is the leader of the race, Dale Jarrett, Interstate Battery Chevrolet.
And there we see Sterling Marlin, our pole sitter. Remember, he just made a pit stop, changed 2 tires, and we can see how much faster he is than Jarrett now. He just pulls up and tries to go on the outside.
Jarrett coming in this time.
Yep, he's slowed.
Meanwhile, Darrell Waltrip, Ken Schrader, and Brett Bodine are all coming into the pits.
There is Bill Elliott as he is still out there at full speed, and here comes Dale Jarrett.
Elliott will take the lead.
Jarrett making his way down pit road, trying to keep it under 70 miles an hour, which is the speed limit. Jerry punches there with the Dale Jarrett pit stop.
And Dale Jarrett will make his second and what would be his final pit stop if it stays green. They will change left side tires only. Remember, they changed right side the first time, only 2 tires. This time, only 2 tires on the left side. Off the jet, Dale Jarrett is down and away.
Well, that was an awful fast pit stop, Jerry. I wonder if they could have got it full of gas. He was only in there for about 12.5 seconds. So you wonder if they really got it full of gas.
Now we'll wait and watch Bill Elliott to see when he comes in, and here he is, dropping down off the banking in turn number 4. John Kernan is standing by in Bill Elliott's pit as he gives up the lead to make his second pit stop.
Bob, 106 laps on the board, 54 left. That is what Elliott has run since his last pit stop. So he will not need another stop as some of the other drivers who pitted a few laps earlier. They changed right side tires last time. This time it will only be left side tires. They are on waiting for that last drop of gas. Bill guns the car, is down and away. 13.7 seconds, a very good stop.
We have seen it so many times here at Daytona, but this race could very definitely boil down to fuel mileage as Michael Waltrip comes in, but it's for something other than a routine stop.
He's hit the wall.
Yeah, he's got some tire rub on the right side of that car, smoke pouring from it as the bodywork rubs on the tire. Michael draws up in his pit area, and they'll try to get that bodywork pulled away from the right side.
We can see the stripe on the right side where he went up and brushed the concrete wall.
He's really had tough luck this year. He's run good, but just things like this have been happening to him all year long.
He was in 17th position when the incident occurred that brought him in, and the yellow flag is out. We will not have a caution-free race. For the first time this afternoon, on lap number 107, the caution flag comes out. And this comes after, or at least nearly everyone has made his second pit stop. So no one will gain a great advantage by this, but it certainly changes the strategy for the rest of the way. Back with more in a moment. The speed of the field is reduced for the very first time this afternoon because of a caution. We're on lap number 110. It's for debris caution, and that has brought nearly everyone in for at least a top off of fuel before we settle down and decide who's going to win this Pepsi 400.
And Ernie Everett goes back up first. Davey Allison, Dale Jarrett, Morgan Sterling Marlin, and Bill Elliott, Morgan Shepherd. That's how they're going back on the speedway.
Everybody's got their car full of fuel and now set to go the rest of the way, as we are only about 51 laps away from the end of this race. We'll take another break and be back with more live coverage.
This Richard Petty memory is brought to you by the First Brands Corporation, makers of STP Son of a Gun Protected. Hollywood couldn't have scripted a more climactic finish to this 4th of July event in 1984, as veterans Cale Yarborough and Richard Petty battled door to door before a record crowd, including President Ronald Reagan.
We ran side by side down the front stretch, and I had the inside groove on it, and we touched a few times, but anyhow, when we got to the start-finish line, I beat him by a couple of 3 feet. It was just the deal that 200th win, July the 4th, President of the United States, you win it on the last lap. I mean, you know, it was everything that you would ever want to get into one race. We put it all together in one beat.
Well, Richard celebrated his 55th birthday earlier this week, and America celebrates its birthday today. Happy July 4th, everybody. From all of us here at ESPN, we are under caution and waiting for a resumption of the Pepsi 400. Now, the conditions were similar today to what they were in 1984 with Richard winning. However, it will not be. Here's John Kernan with an update on the King.
Bob, after Richard climbed from the car, they took him back to the infield care center. They checked him out. Everything, all his vital signs were fine. His blood pressure was okay. He was just very, very hot and exhausted. He, in fact, had said that, told one of the STP representatives here at the race that he would have stayed in the car if there was only 100 miles left, but he just didn't feel that he could do them right by staying out there in the car from the halfway point of the race on, still a half of the race to go. What they've done is they've cooled him off. They've taken him to his infield trailer where he is relaxing right now, and an STP representative told me that right now Richard is more embarrassed than anything.
Well, he has nothing to be embarrassed about because it is extremely hot. It is very humid here today, and a lot of people couldn't withstand what he could not.
I'd probably have to have relief if we were not in the air conditioning. If we were outside, I'd probably have to have relief doing what I'm doing right now.
I know, and that's why Jerry Punch and John Kernan are people that we salute today for working down there in the hot sunshine on pit road. The green flag comes out, racing resumes. The restrictor plates and the fact that they're running spoilers, rear spoilers at 45 degrees means that it takes a while for these cars to get up to speed, but they're going 3 abreast through turn 1.
Ernie Irvin takes him not long at all to get back out in front. There's Kyle Petty. He's a lap down. The mellow yellow Pontiac trying to get it back.
This is the first time they've been bunched up, fellas, since the start of the race.
Let's hope they can survive this bunch-up without major problems. Davey Allison is in second position to Ernie Irvin. Davey is up high, as is Dale Jarrett.
And Davey goes by Kyle Petty on the outside. Now Kyle moves over. Since Davey has went by, he'll probably let all these guys on the outside line go by.
Sterling needs to get up there in a hurry. He's running in 4th place, but he needs to get by Kyle Petty as quick as he can. Kyle gives him plenty of running room up there because he doesn't want this front 3 to break away. Dale Jarrett had a notion to try to go on the high side of Davey Allison there, but couldn't make it work. The boy Sterling Marlin caught him in a hurry.
Marlin in 4th and Bill Elliott in 5th position as they go down the backstretch once again. Second group of cars being led by Greg Sachs at number 41. He is a lap down. Morgan Shepherd, number 21, is in 6th.
And the 16 car, Wally Dallenbach, is running 7th.
Wally with a fine run here this afternoon. Got most of his early experience on the road courses, but he is showing his super speedway prowess this afternoon.
There's 5 cars up front trying to break away. There's Morgan Shepherd in the 6th position in the sit-go forward. He's about to lose the draft to that front group. He wants to get around Greg Sachs there as quickly as he can to try to pick up the draft of those front 5 cars.
Sachs is 19th, by the way.
Lap down.
They're the top 5. They hooked up together.
2 Chevrolets and 3 Fords.
And Elliott is the caboose on the train.
That was appropriately painted red.
Yeah.
And Elliott right now with these fresh tires is running on the bottom of the racetrack and staying in line with his cars. After they run 15, 20 laps and the car starts sliding around, I'm sure we'll see Elliott go back to the top of the racetrack.
Yep, I think his car runs better after the tires gets worn a little bit. So he's just going to sit there and ride along and hang on to them until they do get heated up a little bit. Now Morgan Shepherd has caught up to the pack. Greg Sachs pulled him up there. Now Shepherd going by Sachs. As we look back, there they are. Shepherd trying to get down on the inside of Greg Sachs. Has a little help from Wally Dolan back there. Wally picked up on his drafting pretty good.
He sure has. He has really shown a lot of experience here on this track this afternoon. Mark Martin is right behind Wally.
But now with these cars running, they were side by side there for a moment. You can see that distance those 5 cars have put in them. Morgan get a little frustrated there in a minute.
Boy, one car just a little out of shape. I mean, that was Stanley Smith.
And we see Stanley, we see Ricky Rudd back in the middle of that group of cars going down in turn 1 right now. So remember, he was up in the front earlier. Has fallen back to about 10th or 12th now. Let's see where he's running. 11th spot right now. He's got some awfully good cars to run with. There's Jeff Thodine, Ken Schrader, Rusty Wallace.
Now he comes out of the pack, wants Schrader to pick him up back there. And he does move around the Rusty Wallace car.
Ooh, moves up right in front of Rusty. Alan Kowicki behind this group of cars is a lap down in that Hooters Ford.
Is 11th as he passes Stanley Smith. And look how close these first 5 are.
And then Greg Sachs, that yellow car on the right part of the screen, he has broken away from Morgan Shepherd a little bit and caught the lead. Now Shepherd is running in single file and has almost caught back up.
But again, Greg Sachs is not on the lead lap. He is 1 lap down in the Kellogg's Chevrolet.
When was that, back in 80? When did he win this thing in that research and development?
Yeah, boy.
That's 84, I think.
Well, it was 84 that Ricky Petty won here. So it's
85, yes. That's right. I've only watched those things all day.
That was one of the most surprising victories I think that I can ever remember in NASCAR racing. Everything is settled down here for the most part. They're in their drafting line, being led by Ernie Irvan with 118 laps completed here at Daytona. ESPN Speed World at Daytona International Speedway in Florida today for the Pepsi 400, and we have a great battle up front as Davey Allison has moved outside Ernie Irvan to challenge him for the lead. They go into turn number 3 side by side. That's Dale Jarrett, of course, up on the outside behind Davey Allison. Sterling Marlin will join Ernie Irvan on the low side as they come down through here 2 by 2 by 2.
Those front 7 cars are all in the lead lap, and there's Ricky Rudd running in 8th place. He's right there with them as well.
Wally Dallenbach is hooked on the back bumper of Morgan Shepherd and really having a good run here today. Now Ricky Rudd moves up and makes it 4 rows too deep.
I mentioned Rudd just a moment ago, back in 11th spot, so quickly he's come up and going for the lead.
Still on record pace, just slightly though. We've been slowed by a caution only 1 time today. Davey Allison, Ernie Irvan fighting for supremacy here at Daytona.
Here comes Morgan Shepherd down on the inside of Sterling Marlin. The Wood brothers sit-go forward. I tell you, Ernie Irvan is impressive down on that low side, fellas, hanging in there virtually by himself. running side by side with Davey Allison.
He's going the shorter way around the racetrack, but these guys up in line on the outside, keeping their cars a little bit freer. You would think he'd be at a disadvantage, but he's still hanging in there.
Now Davey with a slight advantage as he has the high line. We've had only 4 laps of caution today, and the record for fewest caution laps is 11. Dale Jarrett looks 3 wide down the backstretch, and he wants to go into the lead, and he will do it.
Wow, what a move. That's the way I taught him to do it.
Man, he taught him well. That was impressive.
Dale Jarrett, the Interstate Battery, is now leading the Pepsi 400 with ease.
We are coming up on the anniversary of Dale's first Winston Cup win at Michigan, one of the most memorable telecasts I can ever remember, and we may be seeing Dale Jarrett's second Winston Cup victory here today. Here's how he got the lead from both Irvin and Davey.
Well, they were just running side by side up there, opening up a lot of air, and he just got out from behind them, picked up the momentum, and drove right around. And is pulling away.
And is pulling away. These guys still battling for that second spot. Irvin just won't give up. And they're running side by side, which is letting Dale Jarrett drive away.
Yep, that's definitely working to his advantage as long as they run side by side back there.
Now Irvin pulls ahead. If he pulls up in front of Davey Allison, which he could, yes.
He will.
Now they'll get in line and see if they can catch back up with Dale Jarrett.
Yeah, it probably won't take them a lap or two to do it now.
It's a smart move, but there are some 2 wide cars back of the lead pack. That is Ricky Rudd on the outside and Morgan Shepherd on the inside.
Now these guys need to get in line or they're going to get run off and left.
Yeah, that front fivesome is going to pull away from him.
Rusty Wallace and
Morgan's loose. He won't be able to correct it, fellas.
Shepherd and Bobby Hamilton collide. Several cars slide toward the infield. This is very reminiscent of last year's crash, but I don't believe we're going to see any cars get upside down. Let us hope not. Several slide to the infield and to the banking, which separates the grass there from Lake Lloyd. A lot of damaged machinery. However, it appears as if all cars stayed upright.
There's some heavy damage to Morgan Shepherd. Has his car running.
That's Dick Trickle.
The Snickers
Ford is badly battered in the front end. First wreck of the day. It occurs on lap 125. We're only 35 laps away from the end.
Here's Derek Cope.
Yeah,
looks like he's backed in the wall, or maybe Dick Trickle ran in the back of his car.
Yeah, something's hit hard. Here it is again. Shepherd's down on the inside of Ricky Rudd. The back end just gets loose. Rusty came up there pretty close behind him, took the air off the spoiler, and back end got loose, and he just could not correct it.
Now, see, he's got the wheel turned to the right. That's what brings the car back and sends it across the racetrack. And
right
there,
into Bobby Hamilton.
Bobby Hamilton had no place to go but right in the side of the 21 car. Now here comes Stanley Smith. Is he going to be able to dodge him? Looks like he does, but he goes down and hits the dirt on the inside.
Alan Kowicki was also involved in that, and I think Bobby got on the brakes. Hamilton got on the brakes, and he was rear-ended by Alan Kowicki, who perhaps was blocked from what was going on up in front of him. Here it is again from another angle.
Now we can watch the cars behind him. Mark Martin just barely gets by. Looks like the 7 car also hit the 21 car is what it looks like.
Yeah, right. It didn't hit Bobby Hamilton, but it did hit the 21 car. So several involved in this crash on the backstretch here at the Pepsi 400. We'll be back with more right after this. Back at Daytona International Speedway, I'm Bob Jenkins along with Ned Jarrett, Benny Parsons, John Kernan, and Dr. Jerry Punch. First crash of the day on the backstretch. Several cars involved, including Bobby Hamilton, the 68 car. It was triggered when Morgan Shepherd lost it coming out of turn number 2, slid sideways, and took several cars with him.
Yeah, the back end just got loose as he came off of that turn. Went around, he tried to correct it. You see there, he pulls it back the other way, but it just would not do it. It just kept spinning around, and a lot of cars behind it.
There we see the 55 car, Ted Musgrave, spin down through it. Kyle Petty looked like he maintained control and drove right through the crash. And there we see cars going down into the inside bank. Here comes the 10 car. Trickle ran in the back of the 10 car. I would safely say that that's what happened in that situation. The 10 car stopped because of the crash, and Trickle couldn't stop.
Well, they're still cleaning up the debris over there in the backstretch. And let's jump inside now with the Phillips 66 in-car camera and see how it looked at Jimmy Hensley.
He doesn't see a whole lot. Smoke.
He got together with Darrell Waltrip, just started in that smoke.
Yep.
Woo.
Several on pit road here during this caution period. And the man who is leading this race at the moment is Dale Jarrett. Let's go down to his pits. Here's Jerry.
And Jimmy Makar is Dale Jarrett's crew chief and brother-in-law. Let me first congratulate you, Jimmy, on being named Western Auto Mechanic of the race here. You guys have really worked on the car. What's the difference in the car now and maybe early in the race?
Well, early on in the race, we weren't too bad. We're just a little bit loose right at the start. But about the halfway point of the race, when he and Ernie broke away, the car picked up a push, and it was pushing pretty bad. And that was our biggest problem. We were really concerned with it. But when we got a chance to get some fresh tires on it now, it seems like it's handling just like he wants it to be. He told us that right now this set of tires is the best he's had all day, so that's the big difference.
Could be a good omen for Dale Jarrett to pick up win number 2 here today.
Indeed, we will see. Still under caution, cleaning up the crash in the backstretch. We'll take the opportunity to take another break. We'll be right back. Another great shot from Airship Shamu right overhead the main tower here, the tri-oval of Daytona International Speedway.
I'm right in the center of the picture. Right there.
Is that you?
No, I'm down in the air conditioning.
Yeah, right.
Those guys are hot.
Another look at Airship Shamu representing SeaWorld parks in Florida, California, Ohio, and Texas. But not on tour, the blimp assists scientists studying endangered manatees and other marine animals along the Florida coast. All right, it's lap number 130, and the green flag comes out, and we resume the Pepsi 400 with Jarrett out front. But here's Ernie Irvan locked on his back bumper.
Where's Bill Elliott in this group?
Well, he's back there in 5th place. Now, the Chevrolets earlier had been able to hook up together and pull away. They got a good chance to do it with Davey Allison running side by side with Kyle Petty back there. That might let Jarrett and Irvan get themselves a little lead. That's what they need to do if they possibly can.
You see Sterling Marlin pull up right on the back bumper of Davey Allison. Now they're able to clear themselves off Kyle Petty.
Yep, that gave them the momentum they needed. Look at Davey dive in there going into turn 3. Boy, he picked up a lot of distance there. He had a lot of momentum once Marlin got up there on his back bumper.
Just a great shot from Airship Shamu. Now down low to watch the cars complete lap 120. And another Fram field summary.
Now, Davey's car went just a little bit high again when he went into turn 1. Wonder if he still got that little bit of a push. Jarrett and Irvan both stayed low on the racetrack. They picked up about 3 car lengths on him on that turn. But on this straightaway, he comes back in a hurry.
There's Ricky Rudd running alongside Jeff Bodine.
Wally Dallenbach right behind them, just looking for a place to go.
Trying to figure out who to follow in this group.
Yep. And here comes Rusty Wallace closing in on Wally.
By the way, you just said lap 120 a moment ago, and that's what the scoring towers say, but our monitor says lap 130.
Yep,
so
you're right. 30 laps to go. 29. Dale Earnhardt was the first car out of the race. He has lost some valuable points.
Oh, yeah. Man, that really, really hurt him.
And Alan Kawicki involved in the crash just a moment ago. He was 3rd in the Winston Cup point standing. So,
well, let's jump inside the car here and ride a bit. Watching the telemetry.
196 miles per hour. This is going down the back straightaway into turn 3. We'll see if there's any kind of wind at all down the front straightaway. The car will not run that fast down the front, but we'll see. 193, 194 I saw. 196. 197, so we must have a little bit of a tailwind down the front. 198.
Normally, this is the fastest part of the racetrack. Even if the wind is still, you run a little bit faster on this front straightaway here than you do on the backstretch for some reason. Or at least that way back when I drove back in the early 60s.
Now, right above Ford Electronics, normally there's a little red light there where they hit the brakes going in the corner. you'll notice, Bob, that doesn't come on here at Daytona because the driver just sits there with his foot on the floor.
Under normal circumstances and conditions, you don't break at Daytona.
You have to put the brakes on. There's something wrong.
Martin pulling in behind Ken Schrader. About 14, 15 cars in this lead draft, and Darrell Waltrip is coming in. Darrell Waltrip making an unscheduled pit stop. He was in 13th position.
And Bob, he got brushed a little bit in that crash over there. And apparently has a tire down. I think he and Jim, well, Benny, you mentioned that he and Jimmy Hensley got together just as they started into this.
His in-car camera, Jimmy Hensley's in-car camera showed us that.
Now, out on the racetrack, here comes Sterling Marlin down on the inside. Davey Allison tried to go high around Ernie Irvin. Sterling Marlin took advantage of it, came down on the inside. Now he and Ernie Irvin run side by side. Can he make that work? I don't think so.
Jarrett maintains the lead. Irvin maintains second. And now Marlin may be caught down low, and he may lose 2 or 3 positions before Rudd catches up.
Well, the only thing that helps him there, Jarrett and Irvin are running low on the racetrack through 2 turns, 1 and 2. But now, with Marlin and Davey side by side back there, that's going to hurt them. And Ricky Rudd just might take advantage of all of that and come, well, he was going to go down to the inside, but there was no room down there.
Darrell Waltrip back out on the racetrack. He's being passed.
And Ricky Rudd came up, got behind the 22 car, and these guys went right to the top. Ooh, and Darrell looked up. There's a guy on the inside. They're 3 abreast coming off turn 4.
Wow. Are they going to make it?
Schrader in the middle, Bill Elliott to the outside, Waltrip down low. Now they get into 2 abreast.
Well, they're still, well, yeah, I guess they're 2 abreast.
Some of them are.
Well, there's 3. There's still 3 abreast. There's
Dallenbach, Bodine, and Waltrip. Wally Dallenbach continues to hang on.
Well, that could have been, it was interesting, but it could have gotten very, very interesting there. Good driving on those guys parked back there.
Dallenbach's best finish this year has been a 14th at Talladega, so he obviously has found his super speedway niche. He was 15th in the running of the Daytona 500 in February here.
And Davey Allison just went on the high side going into turn 3 and moved around Ricky Rudd right up in front of these cars. There you see him. He was behind him the last time around. Moved up on the high side. I bet he'll try it again up here in turns 1 and 2 around Sterling Marlin if Marlin follows the 2 Chevrolets out front as they've been dipping to the low side of the track here.
Yep. Allison heads for the high side of the racetrack. Trying to move around Sterling Marlin, who is 3rd.
He's got a run on Irvin trying to make a move on Jarrett. He figures it's time to go. He sees what's happening back there. He says, I believe I can pull this train a little bit faster than Jarrett was, although they were running in the 47-second bracket there a little bit ago, the fastest lap that I've clocked them today. Well, Jarrett couldn't get down. He probably wanted to go down behind Ernie Irvin, but couldn't get down there. Here comes Marlin down on the inside. It's getting interesting, guys.
Boy, Elliott still way up high, almost 3 abreast there in the 3rd quarter. Well, Dale Jarrett has lost the lead. He's back to 4th now, and Ernie Irvin sets the pace with Sterling Marlin 2nd and Rudd 3rd.
Yeah, Dale needs to get on the inside. His car is just not working on the top of the racetrack like some of these other cars.
Yeah. Some great racing, and we've got more to come. Stay with us for more of the Pepsi 400 live on July 4th here at Daytona. We'll be right back. Well, this is the Pepsi 400 and the hot air balloon decorated appropriately for the running of this NASCAR Winston Cup race here on the 4th of July at Daytona International Speedway. Our Speed World coverage is being brought to you by Autolite Spark Plugs, guaranteed for 2 years, no matter how far you go. And by ESPN Home Video, producers and distributors of Richard Petty and STP, available at video and retail stores nationwide. Well, there are only 20 laps to go, and Ernie Irvin still continues to set the pace, and he and Sterling Marlin now have broken away a little bit from 3rd place Rudd.
Yes, they have. The other cars are dicing around 4 positions back there, and that has allowed those 2 cars to pull away.
Rusty Wallace is down on the inside of Jeff Bodine, actually of Dale Jarrett.
Jeff Bodine, the Motorcraft Ford, has his car up front. Bill Elliott, who's been running the high groove all day, got these cars started running on the inside. They've shuffled Elliott all the way back to the 7th spot.
Well, congratulations to Linda Sontag of Victoria, Texas. She's today's winner of a beautiful Chevrolet Lumina. In the Gillette Halfway Challenge contest, she correctly named Ernie Irvin as the leader of the halfway point. If you want to enter the contest at the next race, the Pocono 500, July 19th, write to Gillette Halfway Challenge, Post Office Box 2246, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33731-2246. You must be 18 years of age or older to enter, and we must receive your entry by Saturday, July 18th to be eligible for the next Gillette Halfway Challenge. Tune in to see who wins next time. We will be there live for the next NASCAR Winston Cup race at Pocono a week from tomorrow.
Sterling Marlin sandwiched by 3 Chevrolets. That blue car in the middle, the Maxwell House Ford, but he's running second.
Make that 2 weeks from tomorrow, Benny.
So it's 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Got another week off after this week. Man.
I'm liable to get a sun tan if we're careful.
Let's go to John Kernan on pit road, who's with Mike Beam.
Mike, Tony Glover just came by and talked to you. What do you guys got cooking?
Well, we're just going to try to stay in line to come to the end. You know, our Maxwell House Texas P4's running well. Now, at first it was a little bit too tight, but Tony and them, they're strong. You know, those Chevrolets, they can bull crap people all the time about these Fords. Those Chevrolets are strong at 18 car and 4 cars. So we're just going to see what happens, because Rudd and Schrader, they're coming. If they get up there, I know they'll hang us out to dry. And Sterling, you know, he's awful hungry and he wants to win. So it might be a pretty good racer a little bit.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Is Sterling just sitting there waiting, maybe going to try it on the last couple of laps?
Yeah, he's going to follow Ernie for a while here and just see, because, you know, you can't pull out now because they'll line up on us, you know, because, buddy, it's like right now we're up there and all those Chevrolets are cooking, you know, so we're going to follow them to the end and see what happens. Because I know Dane, nobody's going to go with unless Davey's there. Bill.
That's Mike Beam, Sterling Marlin's crew chief. A while ago when Sterling did get out of line, Mike threw up his hands. He said, oh, he's going to the back, but someone got him back in line. So they're just going to sit and wait and bide their time.
Well, Mike had a pretty thorough assessment of what we face here. He's right. Sterling Marlin is hungry for his first NASCAR Winston Cup win, but Rudd and Schrader are coming, and you can't count out, of course, Davey Allison or Bill Elliott. So we do have a nice fight on our hands here.
And Davey Allison just the last lap passed Kenny Schrader for that 4th spot. So we got Chevrolet Ford, Chevrolet Ford.
And Alan Kawicki continues to have problems, fellas. He's down on the low side of the racetrack running slow. So Davey Allison, if he stays up here in the top 5 today, is really going to benefit as far as the points are concerned, with Earnhardt already out. Elliott just is behind him now, and Alan Kawicki, who was in 3rd in the points, dropping farther behind him.
Ernie Irvin has led most of the laps here this afternoon. He was leading at the halfway point and continues to lead now as the laps continue to click away. 145 have been completed.
Kenny Schrader and Davey Allison side by side as they get off the 4th corner. Ricky Rudd in the Tide Chevrolet, who's a teammate to Kenny Schrader, pulled over to let Kenny Schrader draft off him as they came off the 4th corner. Didn't seem to work too much because Davey was able to stay alongside. Jeff Bodine's going to look on the inside. He thought about going 3 abreast.
He did. But he figured Schrader might carry him a little bit faster into that turn, and sure enough he does. And pulls him right on by Davey Allison.
Now Jeff is going to try to go by Schrader. Jeff, I'm not. No, don't do it.
Oh, man. Jeff Bodine was 3rd here in the spring at the Daytona 500.
Dale Jarrett trying to get back to the front.
Boy, he's had to work hard. He went back to 8th position. He moved back up to 7th, and now back to still 7th.
There is Ernie Irvin continuing to lead, but it's just about a 4 or 5 car length advantage over Sterling Marlin, and Ricky Rudd is running 3rd. We'll be right back. At Daytona International Speedway and ESPN Speed World coverage of the Pepsi 400. Ernie Irvin is leading over Sterling Marlin. Those two hooked up together, and then back in third spot is Ricky Rudd. Fourth is his teammate Ken Schrader. Then comes Jeff Bodine, followed by Dale Jarrett, who was leading. Then Rusty Wallace and the 28 car of Davey Allison, which has fallen back to 8th position ahead of Bill Elliott.
Davey Allison has lost what, about 4 positions here in the last couple of laps, Ned?
Yeah, he's lost 3 positions.
And I'll tell you what, those are valuable positions because, as you've talked about, the point standing.
Yep, he's.
But the guy second in points is the guy that's right behind him. Elliott.
Bill Elliott. So at least he's still ahead of him. Here's Jarrett trying to go on the inside of Jeff Bodine. Rusty Wallace going to try to help him as they go into turn 3.
Jarrett pulls up in front of Jeff Bodine, takes that spot away. Rusty's caught on the inside. They're going by the Greg Sachs car.
3 wide down through the tri-oval as they pass Greg.
We understand that maybe Davey's car, we mentioned earlier that he had a push in the car, and it looks like it is going very high in the turns.
That last car there in the group is Mark Martin on the far right of your screen. And we only have 10 more laps to go before we decide.
I didn't thought Rusty was going to just keep coming.
Are you okay?
No.
Boy, that cost him some positions right down on the inside. He didn't get any help. There's Mark Martin. Maybe something wrong with Rusty.
Yeah, he seems to be falling back here.
Looks like he had to squeeze out of the throttle back there just a moment ago when Davey went by. When I said, ooh, I think he had to back out of the gas, and that cost him another spot.
Boy, when you have to back out of the gas with these restrictor plates, it takes forever to get back up there again. Everybody knows it's time to go. Try to jockey for those positions as much as you possibly can because time is running out.
Another field summary. This one sponsored by Fram.
That's third, fourth, fifth. That big group back there, the front two. A little bit of a breakaway.
12 cars on the lead lap here in the late going. And Sterling Marlin is within a few car lengths and a few laps of winning his first NASCAR Winston Cup race.
He got a serious problem. He got a yellow Ford in front of him. A Chevrolet, driven by Ernie Irvin.
Dale Jarrett picked off Ken Schrader that last lap. Boy, he's had to work hard to get back up there after he lost all he got when Ernie Irvin went by him. The train went by him and he dropped back to 8th. And now he's got her back up to 4th. He wants a shot at Irvin. Now he's going to try to go on the inside of Ricky Rudd coming off of that turn. Hope Schrader will go with him. Might not need any help. Well, Schrader goes by too.
He motored by Ricky with ease.
Here comes Jeff Bodine trying to get by Schrader.
Everybody's passing Rudd, it looks like.
Davey Allison trying to go by. If that car's pushing like they say it is, he's going to go up the hill.
Might have had to back off a little bit there down on the inside.
8 laps to go. This is Mark Martin's in-car camera. He's running there with Rusty Wallace and Davey Allison.
Bill Elliott's been able to get by Davey Allison.
Speed increasing now as he goes down the backstretch.
From up to 188. Rusty Wallace has gotten by Davey, so he is losing valuable Winston Cup points. Here comes Mark Martin. That's another 4 points if Martin gets by. And his troubles are still not over because there comes Dolan back behind in the Keystone car. But he's able to pull in front of Mark Martin.
See those RPMs sort of going up and down there.
197.
197 miles per hour as they go down in turn 1.
It's been a fast race. Been a safe race. Only one crash that involves several cars on the backstretch, but no serious injury to anyone. Davey Allison's car heads up the banking once again.
Jeff Bodine's car seems to be going a little bit high as well when he gets into the turns. He's right on the back bumper. There he is trying to get on the inside now. Dale Jarrett has to come through the trioval here. But when he gets in the turns, Ken Schrader's been able to catch up to him.
This time Elliott goes by Schrader coming off the trioval, gets on the outside. He takes that spot away.
There you see Davy's car going up high again. Mark Barton coming down on the inside. And here's Schrader coming back on the inside.
With Elliott falling back behind him now as they go down the back stretch. Elliott falls in behind Jeff. Third, fourth, fifth, and sixth right there. Out front, it's still Urban and Marlin.
Yeah, they just aren't able to do much with them. They're staying about the same distance. They might be gaining just a tad on them. But they're going to have to gain a lot in these next few laps.
Four laps to go.
A couple lap cars up in front of the leaders, fellas. Don't know how much of a part it might play in the outcome of this race.
We're looking at third, fourth, and fifth. Dale Jarrett, Jeff Bodine, and Bill Elliott.
Well, they caught those lap cars in a hurry. Or took one of them at least.
It would be Ernie Irvan's second win of the 1992 season. And will be his fifth career victory in NASCAR Winston Cup competition. And it would be, of course, Sterling's very first. And they will now move in behind one of the other slower cars and pass the Stanley Smith car to the inside, right at the line. There are 3 laps to go in the Pepsi 400.
And Stanley moves down to the inside, let the faster cars go by, which they do, no trouble.
Jarrett's gaining on them a little bit, fellas.
Ain't over yet, friends.
Yep, you might have 5 cars there battling for that thing here on the last lap. You got Jeff Bodine and Bill Elliott are not out of it, running in 4th and 5th place.
Here's Bodine looking to the inside of Dale. Will not make a move, however, into turn 3, and when they come down, there'll be 2 more laps to go.
Sterling has almost, he's dropped back behind Ernie Irvan. Of course, Irvan hopes that he can look up in the mirror and see him race side by side back there, and that'll just give him the break that he needs.
2 laps to go.
Let's see if Sterling was backing up. Let's see if he was backing up to get a run at Ernie Irvan down the back straightaway.
Here's Jarrett.
Can he do it?
Up high. Jeff Bodine closing in to third.
The Jeff's car pushed a little bit coming off of that turn, and Bill Elliott's going to motor by him and they get together. Here comes Schrader on the outside.
He bumped with Jeff Bodine and nearly lost it, saved it, and picked up the spot. Bill Elliott, that is.
Wow.
We got to take a look at that again.
Here goes Elliott on the inside. Now Jeff Bodine is trying to block that move. But Bill Elliott gets down there and kicks the car sideways.
Nice save by Elliott. The white flag is out. 1 more lap to go for Ernie Irvan. Sterling Marlin has closed in on him, though. He's within less than a car length.
All right, Dale Jarrett's hoping he can get close enough and they'll get side by side and he can make that move that he made earlier when he took the lead. Of course, that was Davey Allison and Ernie Irvan then, but I don't think Jarrett's going to get that close this time.
Off the banking of turn number 2, down the backstretch for the final time. Irvan stretches it out just a little bit. Let's see what happens behind as Dale Jarrett hangs on to 3rd position. Irvan has the lead as they head for turn number 3, still keeping about a 2 or 3 car length separation between himself and Sterling Marlin. Jarrett is working the high side. Bodine and Elliott are low. Here they come off the banking. This will decide who wins the Pepsi 400. The checkered flag is out. Ernie Irvan wins it. Marlin is second, followed by Dale Jarrett. And then a very close battle between Jeff Bodine and Bill Elliott for 4th.
And Jeff Bodine won it. Won the battle. Yeah, he finished 4th.
The celebration has begun. 4th of July celebration has begun early for Ernie Irvan, who has won the Pepsi 400. We'll talk with him in a moment. Of course, the blimp currently on its spring tour, which began in Texas for the season opening of SeaWorld in San Antonio. From New York, Air Chef Shamu will travel to Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and then to Williamsburg, Virginia, home of Busch Gardens, another Anheuser-Busch theme park. That's the shot from overhead at Daytona as Ernie Irvan has driven to victory here in the Pepsi 400. It's a little warm. Ernie beginning to cool off now as he has won his second NASCAR Winston Cup race of 1992. Sears Point, and now here on the superspeedway at Daytona. Our Kodak Gold Film winter interview. Here is Dr. Jerry Punch.
And Ernie Irvan climbing out of this car, and folks, believe me, he is quite hot, but he's also quite excited. Ernie, congratulations on an outstanding effort today.
I tell you, I kept telling everybody it was going to be a handling race, and the guy that could hold it wide open all day was going to be the guy that win, and I never thought anybody could hold it wide open all day, but Tony set this car up. We didn't run the last practice, and they threw the green, and it was wide open from then on.
Looked like Dale Jarrett had a pretty good car, and also late in the race, Sterling was awfully tough.
Yeah, he was. Sterling could run the bottom groove with me a little bit. I could beat him off, too, a little bit. Yeah, I can't say enough about this Kodak Film Chevrolet and Rump Pittman in the engine, and Tony Glover made a good call. I come sliding in the pits too hard, and we're going to change 4, decided to change 2, and got it done without making mistakes.
Does this make up for the frustrations in February?
Nothing makes up for him, but it sure can't hurt.
Ernie Irvan picking up win number 2 in 1992. Guys?
Our congratulations to Ernie, and we will be back with more as we continue our coverage of the Pepsi 400, won by Ernie Irvan. Back in just a moment. Well, the crowd now begins to file out and return to their respective homes for more 4th of July celebration. We're glad you spent the early part of it with us here at the Pepsi 400 at Daytona International Speedway. Speed World coverage being brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Valvoline. People who know use Valvoline. And by Fram Oil Filters. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later. Ernie Irvan wins. Sterling Marlin second. John Kernan is with him.
Sterling, a second place finish. He started from the pole. Just couldn't make the move on Ernie. Was it just too stout there at the end?
Well, our car was running great for 15 or 20 laps when we had new tires on it. And for some mysterious reasons, done it 2 years in a row, we start pushing off too, and you just have to lift. And I was hoping Dale Jarrett would come on and we could get a run at him, and evidently he got to race with somebody, but it just pushed off too, and I had to lift or hit the wall on the last lap, and I could murder him in 3 and 4, but he could murder me in 1 and 2, and I wish we had a couple more laps.
You maybe wish you would have had a Ford driver hook up with you there at the end when you and Ernie pulled away from everyone?
Yeah, I seen, Dale was in Chevrolet, and I said, well, this couldn't be good here, but at that time, no matter what you drive, you're trying to win a race, and if we just had her loosed up a little bit off too, we'd been ready.
That's Sterling Marlin, your second place finisher. One day, gentlemen, he's going to wind up in victory lane.
Yeah, it seems like it's only races away, but he comes up short here today, finishing in second position. Well, we have the luxury today to do a little post-race show for you. We'll take it to the top of the hour, about 16 more minutes, and we'll come back with more after this. Back at Daytona International Speedway, where the Pepsi 400 has been won by Ernie Irvan. Let's run down the entire unofficial results. Of course, you salute these guys that finished in the top 5, but there are some others as we look down through here. For instance, Rusty Wallace, who finished in 9th position. Daytona isn't good to him. Hasn't been in the past few years, but it was today as Rusty came home 9th.
And Rusty Wallace borrowed an engine from the Ernie Irvan crew. Wally Dallenbach finished. He borrowed an engine from the Ernie Irvan crew this week and used it in the Pepsi 400. Finished 9th with it.
There you can see Morgan Shepherd wound up in 19th place after starting that big crash back there on the backstretch, but the Citgo Ford did keep going. But Harry again back there in 23rd place. He just really never got the car going.
Yeah, and Terry Labonte finished in 21st position. He came into this race 6th in the point standings. Alan Kulwicki had another tough day. He was involved in an accident on the backstretch. He finishes in 30th position.
Now we see Dave Marcus, Bobby Hamilton, Dick Trickle. Remember, he's the guy that probably had the most damage in the crash on the back straightaway, finished 35th.
And of course, the toughest day of all, suffered by Dale Earnhardt, who dropped out after just a few laps with engine problems. He finished last in 40th position. More in our post-race show from Daytona in a moment.
Once again, ladies and
We are back at Daytona, where the Pepsi 400 has been won by Ernie Irvin, his second win of the year. Well, today was King Richard Petty's day here at Daytona, his final start as a driver in a race. It didn't last very long for him. He'll wind up in 36th position. Here's Dr. Jerry Punch.
Richard, we know you went to the infield care center. First of all, how are you?
Oh, I'm okay. What happened? Just got too hot in there. You know, I didn't. Carbon monoxide didn't bother me nothing. I just got exhausted, I guess, from everything that was going on. And you know, I run first pit stop and a half, and then about halfway through that one, I told them boys, I said, y'all better find somebody because I ain't gonna be able to make it. You know, if it had been, you know, 100 miles to go or something, I would have probably been okay. But I said, there's no way that I can run 200 miles and you know, be safe. And you know, I'm glad I didn't after I watched a couple of them spin there back there on the back stretch, and then as close as they was running there at last, if you hadn't been in shape, you'd have been in trouble.
Now, you're too much of a gentleman to say, but you were in that driver's suit for about 2.5 hours longer this morning than any of the other drivers in that Nomex underwear in the driver's suit. In this heat, that's going to take its toll.
Well, it didn't help anything. I think that plus just the mental deal of being at Daytona, trying to do as good as we could. You know, the president being here, I was all excited about all that stuff. And I think I just like a kid with a new toy. I think I got too hepped up about everything and wasn't laid back quite enough. But anyhow, the car run good. You can't believe how good I felt first 3 or 4 laps. The car running good and all that. And then I said, okay, let them go ahead and do some racing. And you know, we run with them a long time, and then it just got where that I physically just wasn't going to do the job.
He has been and always will be the king. Let's go to John Kernan.
Jerry, I'm sitting in Bill Elliott's truck. Bill's taking it kind of easy now. Feels really good. I remember last year after you won this race, Bill, you were pretty much exhausted, but that wasn't the problem today.
Well, you know, everything was good. We handled well. I don't know why we couldn't run right off the bat. But, I mean, all of a sudden, I was back there struggling, and then the car decided to go, and here I go. You know, when it went so far under green, you know, then we were all of a sudden running third. And, you know, we were having a good day, and I hated to see them cautions come out because I was better in the long run. I would have been better if it just stayed green all day.
That was at the point, too, where you could have gone the rest of the way on fuel and everyone else would have had to have stopped again. But if you can't win the race, at least you beat the points leader, so you picked up a little ground on Davey.
Well, we picked up some on Davey, and that's great. You know, we just need to keep struggling and working and trying to get a little better throughout the year. I was really disappointed here Thursday, no better than we qualified, and I was really scared we weren't going to run good today. And, you know, we ran good, and like I told Tam Mayer after that, when that first caution came out, I said, at least we can go out of here and kind of halfway hold our heads up.
Bill Elliott with a smile. Bob?
Well, he can indeed smile. Hey, there's the pilot of Airship Shamu. Thank you for the wonderful pictures this morning and this afternoon. We enjoyed it. Bill Elliott has closed to within 46 points of Winston Cup points leader, Davey Allison. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway, and our next NASCAR Winston Cup event will be on July 19th. Pocono 500. Rusty Wallace is the defending champion there. If you can't see the race in person at beautiful Pocono International Raceway, why join us for our live coverage beginning at 12 noon. And Dr. Jerry Punch is with Dale Jarrett.
And taking a breather here, Dale, congratulations on an outstanding effort.
Well, thanks, Jerry. The car drove great all day long, and you know, we just appreciate the sponsors, Interstate Battery, Shell, and Food Line, helping us out there and getting us to this point. This has been a struggle with this team somewhat, but all the guys have worked so hard, and I knew we had a good car right from the very beginning, and just needed a little bit more. I thought maybe at one point there that we may have something, but I got a little bit loose and thought I had a flat maybe, and I didn't want to take any chances, so I dropped back a little further than I really wanted to, and it took me a little while to make my way back and just not quite enough at the end. But Ernie had a great car, and all in all, I think he probably deserved to win the race.
If you could have called Ernie, think you could have handled him, even though you had slid back and lost some space?
I don't know. There were certain points on the track that I was a little better than him, but the points that really mattered, he was a little bit better than me. And so I think that it would have been difficult for me too, but I wasn't going to do anything to jeopardize a Chevrolet winning the race. I was going to help Ernie. Sterling's a good friend, but wasn't going to be much help to him there.
Teamwork in the General Motors camp as Dale Jarrett brings the Interstate Battery Chevrolet home in third spot at Daytona. We'll be back with more from the Pepsi 400 after this. Stay with us.
Well, it began today with a visit from President Bush, who was the Grand Marshal of today's Pepsi 400. He left a little afternoon, and now the race is over. It's been won by Ernie Irvan. Now, several things concerning Richard Petty Day here today, and they painted one of the city buses to look like the STP Pontiac.
That's the weirdest looking thing I've ever seen.
You were a taxi driver. Did you ever drive a bus, Benny?
No, never did. Buck Baker, he was the bus driver.
Let's take a look at the Quest for the Cup standings, the NASCAR Winston Cup point standings now as we have completed the halfway point of the season. Davey Allison with 2,257. Bill Elliott gained today, and so he now is only 46 behind Davey. Alan Kowicki did not have a good day, but he retains third place in the point standings. Gant did not have a good day, but he remains fourth. And Earnhardt had a terrible day, and he stays in fifth.
But now he's 252 points behind Davey Allison. That's basically 2 races.
Yeah, with him finishing towards the top and Davey finishing towards the rear.
That's right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, Mark Martin moved up a position to 6th. Terry Labonte dropped down to 7th. Jeff Bodine moved up to 8th position. Ricky Rudd moved to 9th from 10th. And Morgan Shepherd dropped from 8th to 10th position. So there you have the standings of the top 10 in NASCAR Winston Cup points as we complete this race here today and head toward the second half of the 1992 season. And it should be a really good season the rest of the way.
Well, I think so, Bob. You know, in the first part of the year, it was all Ford. Now,
that's right.
Chevrolet's back in there as evidence here today.
Well, coming up here on ESPN, a great afternoon of sports. Here's just a sample of what you will see. Drag racing coming up in just a moment. And the Tour de France, our unprecedented coverage of this event, begins at 4:30. Senior PGA at 5:30. Sports Center at 7. Later tonight, auto racing, Speed Week on location at Loudon, New Hampshire at 7:30 with Derek Daly. And then Saturday Night Thunder at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. The USAC Midgets from the high banks of Winchester Speedway in Indiana. Ernie Irvan has won the Pepsi 400, and we thank you for joining us here on this July 4th. We hope you'll have a very safe and pleasant remainder of the 4th of July weekend. We'll see you 2 weeks from tomorrow at Pocono. Thanks to Ned Jarrett, Benny Parsons, John Kernan, and Jerry Punch. This is Bob Jenkins. So long, everyone.